Just waiting for someone to come up in the box and have a discussion with me here. Just getting the live started. Uh, how's it going?
Nice. Like it.
What's up today?
Oh, not much. Just straight chilling. But do you come on live a lot and just talk economics? Or just like logic and philosophy?
Yeah, I've been coming on live for probably over a year now. But economics seems to be my topic of interest that not really many people on here, or at least my peer group, doesn't really seem interested in. I'm down to talk about anything really, though.
Where do you stand on like how economics? So like, do you think that individuals should just be free to essentially like create their own economy by having as much private wealth as possible, or do you think that like needs to be regulated?
I'm pretty against regulation across the board. I think like shrinking the government, smaller government sizes, less regulation, free market capitalism is basically what I lean towards, Austrian economics. But I'm willing to be checked on those assumptions. Like I know I live in Canada, so I mean the west coast of Canada is very progressive, liberal, lots of regulations. So I mean I'm sympathetic to at least the culture of that. I'm surrounded by it, and yeah, I'm open-minded. But I think that if I were to critique like the culture that I'm in, I think a big problem is the restrictions and the regulations. I think it causes things like homelessness, addiction, lack of distribution of wealth, those very things that the liberals sort of yearn for, distribution of wealth, equality, those kind of ideal talking points. I think that those are usually leveraged better in like a free market system. I don't normally see governments working towards those ideals. Again, I'm sympathetic for pushback, but whereabouts do you stand on that?
I mean, I think I'm much more in line with a regulated economy. It's a pretty tightly regulated economy, where like the end goal is to essentially like not allow any power to coalesce into one company. Like right now, I mean, if we just went free, non-regulated, you only got like 6 food companies on the entire planet, so they're basically running the entire show. There's not like, if you don't regulate it, there's nothing that can stop that relationship and them taking advantage of people who are essentially powerless.
Yeah, I hear that. The only issue I don't see a solution to is the power dynamic from the regulators. So isn't the regulators just another branch of economic power?
Well, they're not. They are economic power in a lot of ways, but more than anything, they can just do power through sheer law, which is, a different force than economics.
Well, they're related. I think they're really related, especially in the sense of like getting voters out to, fulfill their cause, or like getting an incentive to get people behind a campaign. Like there's a lot of economic, forces behind that. Also this element of like, a round table, a council of voted representatives to make the regulations. I like that idea. I don't see the difference between that, though, in a political setting and that in an economic setting. Like, if a bunch of CEOs are voted in to represent the shareholders, well, I don't see the difference between that and, a municipal representative being voted in by the town to lobby for whatever campaign they're going for. Similar, it seems similar to me. I don't see the like symmetry breaker there. It seems all funded by money and it seems economically based. The only difference is I cringe at the political campaigns because they don't seem productive. At least a campaign towards something that produces a service or a product with a branch of CEOs and shareholders. There's a profit margin and hopefully a product that actually helps benefit the market. Whereas a lot of the issues I see with the policy driven campaigns is that they're often virtue signal based and like they don't ever materialize into the promises that were said or the products that were sort of like, set to, advertised by
Yeah.
the politicians.
I mean, that's definitely true. I mean, that's why I don't usually talk about economy, or because to me, I'm like, the economy is secondary for what I think is what we should be striving for as humans, which is just like in general human flourishing within like community and well-being and safety and nourishment
Hell
and
yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
violence and like and
Hell yeah.
and with that as the focus, like the capitalism, at least in like a free market sense, it tends to just produce mindless consumerism and advertising that just will probably eat the entire world, with just endless consumption.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. The consumerism aspect of it. Again, I don't know if like greed and consumerism is a problem of capitalism or just humans in general. Like I
What are you
think if
talking about?
we if we if we whatever you want, man, really, but we're kind of going off on a bit of economics right now, but I'm down to talk about really anything, bro.
Alright.
Um, but I think we can unite, Pan, on what you said about general equality or like wealth distribution, opportunities for everyone. It's just about how we do it. I guess one of the things that got me interested in economics is going down the like conspiracy wormhole of questioning what is money, looking into the history of money, and seeing the corruption inside
Money
of the
is
banking systems.
a lot. Yes.
So there's
Yeah, I
there's
don't
a
know
lot
much about the
there's a lot
conspiracy
there.
behind that, but it does. Money does seem to rule the world. That's for sure. So
Yeah.
there's always power involved in it.
Yeah, and like there's this extra component of I thought I was going down a conspiracy wormhole, and then it enlightened me in the end. It made me actually less skeptical. My education through that made me less skeptical of economics and capitalism. How ironic, right? The more I educated myself on how money works, the more I saw actually my financial illiteracy was the conspiracy theory. Me thinking money is all just this top down corrupt thing controlled by the government, all of that, that was actually more conspiratorial than when you educate yourself on how money actually functions economically and how you don't need to use necessarily a fiat system. Like I think basically what I'm saying is I think a lot of our conspiratorial cultural thinking comes from this lack of capitalist thinking. People who hate the system, who think they're controlled by the government, who think there's no way out. There's no, there's just
Yeah.
this top down. I actually think that is more of a socialist rhetoric than like capitalists generally, I think, see themselves as a bit able to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, invest and make opportunities happen with whatever options they have, and like incrementally grow their way out of poverty. Whereas the socialist mindset seems to be more like, no, you're forever destined to be, no matter how hard you work, right? There's this top down system that's basically controlling the distribution of wealth. And until those regulations are put into place to actually distribute the wealth, you don't really have much of a say. You don't really have much of autonomy.
So everybody,
That I
so
think that is a
so
lie.
most people just think that they're being controlled by a certain system. So is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that for the most part is a lie. I don't think they're being controlled. I think the system of control is this apathy towards thinking about
Yeah,
their other
it's
options.
yeah, you're right. It's the way we think towards the system. If we think the system's controlling us, then the system is controlling us.
Yes, yes. But if you can find, there's obviously options and ways and freedoms, right? There are ways out. It's just about how you kind of look at. So for me, a lot of these political discussions like get off track, right? When people try to take a side, oh, I'm right wing, I'm left wing, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, capitalist, socialist. And when I look at it through the lens of economics, I think that this like spreads the conversation a little more even. Like we don't have to take sides, right? We can more approach this from, I don't know, like a practical and analytical lens.
Okay.
Pan, I'm sorry that you left. I was enjoying that discussion. Feel free to come back up if you had to go and whatever. What's up, Chris? How you doing today? Hey, Chris, I heard you say yesterday on a panel that you were leaning more free market. That isn't that a change? Isn't that a change for you? I seem to remember a while ago you being a little more left on that issue, but I think if maybe you've been talking to Bart, um, or maybe I heard you wrong. But I heard you in a panel, I think yesterday or the day before, say that you lean a little more towards free markets. It's not a change. I argue all sides. Oh, okay, I was wrong about that. Because I know Bart and I have had some really good discussions about free market capitalism. Yeah, and I seem to remember you and I know you can defend all sides though, but that's that was reassuring, or I guess nice to hear when you gave a little bit of credence to the free market system. You know, as Americans, you guys are so privileged in that sense, and I know you know this. I know if you know that if you go to a country that doesn't have at least some free market economics, it's detrimental. So often when people from the American or the West culture sort of talk about these issues, they're coming at it from a fairly capitalist perspective. Maybe they want a bit more regulation, a bit more social welfare, but generally that the fact that some of the culture thinks they're actually advocating for things like communism, it's like y'all don't know how privileged you are. You don't know the system you're in. You're not an advocate for communism. You just think you are because you want our current system to be a little more regulated and a little more limited, but that doesn't make you a full-blown communist. Like, relax. You know, you're reaping the benefits from a system that is very utilitarian. Another thing I see, Chris, is that, I think that the political rhetoric, the fact that it gets bogged down in ideological thinking or echo chambers is a testament to financial literacy and not economic thinking. The fact that everyone's sort of like off-put or allergic to economics, right, makes me question. It's like, maybe these conversations could be a little more productive if we did take the economic lens. And is there a pattern here? I'm so happy to have you up here today, Chris. I'm lonely up here. What's going on?
Oh, it's okay. Not much. How are you doing? I like that you're talking about economics. It's a topic that is glossed over quite a bit in our society, unfortunately. And a lot of people don't really understand it. So I do appreciate your lives and the conversations that you allow to unfold.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, especially because I feel like the conversations are more productive. Like if I talk from this lens, I feel like if there's a problem, there's an actual solution through the economic thinking. Whereas often these conversations, these arguments go nowhere. They seem so like politically charged and just ideological, and then no practical solution. Like I actually think something like homelessness could be solved, through an economic solution. Whereas like political solutions, I don't know. I don't know if that's ever going to solve something like homelessness.
I don't think political solutions really solve anything other than, getting the politics isn't there too. I think it just creates more problems because the people get so caught up on left, right, who's wrong, and all this other stuff that it's just crazy to me. I invited Aspen over here because Aspen does sympathize with communism quite a bit. So I thought y'all might have an interesting conversation too if Aspen wants to come up.
Oh, sick. Yeah, sick, for sure. And yeah, if you want to come up, no pressure, Aspen, but I'm open to talking about it from whatever lens here. We don't have to, strictly stay on economics, but how's it going, Aspen? What's up?
It's going good. What's up with you?
I'm going good too. I'm just chilling, having my coffee here before work. I got a bit of a slow start to the Monday, but I work into my evenings, so I typically don't get out till like noon or 1. It's 1:30 my
What do you
time.
do for a living?
I do a bunch of stuff, but currently it's just been deliveries. As the weather gets bad here, I do like skate park lessons with kids, but as the weather gets bad, I do my other job more and more. Through the summer, I was doing that more, but I do deliveries, just food delivery on my bike.
Oh, nice.
And courier work. I'm so, this actually could bleed into the economic discussion because I'm so, I struggled with my mental health so much growing up, having a boss. I don't know if you guys struggle with that too, but like having a job and a boss and a schedule for me is really hard. So I gravitated towards these like more independent entrepreneurial contracting gig work, that kind of, so that I can make my own schedule, have my own clients, and not have that like pressure of the boss on Monday morning if I don't feel like going into work telling me I have to be there,
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah, and that mindset really dug me into, thinking about economics, capitalism, those entrepreneurialism, right? Because I knew that if I'm going to provide a career for myself, I have to think differently than getting bogged down in the security and comfort of a 9 to 5. There's security and comfort there, but it's limiting to your freedom, right? So you have to make a trade-off. You have to say, okay, I'm willing to live a little bit less financially stable to basically pursue my long-term goals. And it's not easy, to do that.
Are you pro-capitalism at this point, or are you pro-communism?
I am, but I define capitalism just as free market, like open free market capitalists. So beyond that, I don't really know what the term. I'm not into exploitation. I'm not into coercion.
The only way the free market works, ideally, if we want to just like this ideal framework, we have to have some form of well, not exploitation per se that arises as we grow. You can have capitalism without corporatism for sure, but the most developed capitalism, especially free market, requires corporations because you need to expand production, and you work in a small business, or you're a small business owner, will not be able to produce the yield needed to make the max amount of profit. Now, if you work in a corporation, you're able to, because you are divvying out the labor to a labor force who is making you profit. But in order for you to maintain top profit, you must continuously lower their wages or keep their wages at a fixed rate, so you can keep most of the end of the profit at the end of the year.
I have a weird question. Should indentured servitude be legal?
No.
All right. So that question was somewhat, it's related, right? Because this freedom of exchange kind of presupposes a mutually beneficial contract. So the exploitation removes this mutually beneficial. If I no longer as an individual, if I can't consent to a contract because I'm being exploited, that removes my ability to exchange mutually. And like if I consent to an exchange with you, presumably it's mutually beneficial. It's not exploitative.
No, I mean that's presuming in an ideal system, but we live in a material reality influenced by conditions.
So I would say that I agree with indentured servitude. If someone wants to indenture themselves to someone else and it's a consensual thing, then I agree with it.
Right.
Be consensual though. Like indentured. If we're using the term indentured, it means They belong to you. They've sired some of them. I can see that in a bedroom style like thing, like if this was like a quink thing, but as a outside the bedroom thing, I think the it gets murky then because they still have rights. Because indentured servants did have rights, but how in feudal times and even in America, but how often were those actually enforced?
Duragon's laughing at. Are you laughing at me, Duragon? Get up here! I can't believe Duragon is laughing at me in the comments section.
I don't know. I don't
How
know.
rude!
Okay. There's a lot here. Aspen, where do you want to? If you could take the conversation in any direction, where would you go with it?
I mean, the current conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need to first look at the structures and how capitalism, came about. Like I'm gonna be honest with you as someone who sympathized with communism. Communists aren't. Marx was never against capitalism. Marx said capitalism was a necessary step for humanity. He just said that by the 19th century, its necessity had led to contradictions because capitalism promised a lot of transformation that it wasn't able to deliver because the class structure it developed did not provide a way for everyone to like climb up the ladder like the myth of capitalism says. Like the idea is like I'll start as a small business, I'll start as a laborer, then I'll make a small business, and that small business will become a company, and then in 2-3 generations, my family will be wealthy aristocracy of the country, that's 1 in a million really. The fact of the matter is that if Chris worked really really hard, the likelihood that Chris's family would, after her passing 20 years down the road, be like the Vanderbilts is very unlikely.
And so you're seeing that as like like when I look at, I'm trying to make a symmetry breaker between like humans and animals at this point. Like when I observe nature, there seems to just be a hierarchy of resources. So are you saying as humans we have like some sort of obligation to act differently than animals?
Oh, it's not an obligation. What separates us from humans, according to Marx and Engels, is that we have the ability to labor. No other creature on the planet labors and can produce, can manipulate nature to its to fit its own needs on a mass scale. Like the dog can't build roads or buildings, but humans can. And so Marx and Engels pontificate and stipulate that we need to create a way that labor is transformative, not exploitative. So we need to build a way that people own what they make rather than to sell it for what it's not worth.
Okay. So I guess I'd like to focus on like the issue of value. How we measure value is going to be subjective, right? We have to presuppose the sovereign individual and that everyone has a different metric for value. What's valuable to me may not be valuable to you. Do you agree with that, Aspen?
I do, but I think that this is the problem. We cannot talk economics in ideal. We have to ground it in class, and the fact is, even like as a working class person, the way I understand value will always be understood to how I produce value versus a middle class person who will always live in a system where they're in middle management.
Not this asshole again.
Oh, come on, I'm all right.
So I mean, I just think that this is the problem I have when we do these economic debates, is that we're not grounding them in reality. We're just doing hypotheticals. It's really a game of Plato's Academy in the Republic here. It's not actually going to come to a solution. We're just trying to like one up each other on who's more logical about it and not. And
or who's
at the end of the day, it's
louder,
semantics.
right? At some points.
Hey, you're louder. You're always interrupting people. Zip it and let people finish. That's not how this panel works. Logic will boot the hell out of you. Stop.
I know I'm a musician, so I know when to come in on pauses. And
Did
I
Richie
feel
kick
the
you because you
pauses.
couldn't stop interrupting people and you're going to come over
No,
here and
there's
interrupt people?
actually
Mute
pause.
yourself and let Aspen finish, bro.
I think you are interrupting what a good flow was there.
I'm interrupting you now because you interrupted Aspen. You.
No, but no, that's my take on this. I mean, it's like, again, I'm also I'll be honestly, I'm not very versed in formal logic. Or all of these things. I'm more of a continentalist by understanding analytical philosophy.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I think maybe I am too, although I love analytic philosophy too. But I guess this issue of value is like, are you saying, Aspen, that there should be like a equilibrium sort of value that's regulated, or that everyone should have their own individual,
Well,
autonomy to set value?
well, value is set by the exchange of labor of social production. You know,
Whoa,
Bart, how am I
wait,
being
whoa,
problematic? I am I
how?
am just merely explaining, some basic Marxist economic theory. I'll make the caveat that I don't understand all of it. I don't agree with all of it, but if anything, Chris, you gotta admire me. I'm
When
honest.
when I was young, I was really spoiled. I was really privileged, and I probably didn't get a job. My first job, I probably wasn't until I was 14 or 15. Until then, I was really given everything. So I didn't really produce much or have any labor associated, yet I still had a very strong sense of what I valued at that age. So how do you reconcile those two things?
Well, economic value is different than personal value. I think those are like what
Oh,
what.
now I'm confused. So cause let's say you're willing to pay more for a chocolate bar than I am. That's economic value. That's personal value. You literally value, almond dark chocolate is your favorite chocolate, and I could care less. I like white chocolate. So you're going to be willing to pay $6 for the chocolate bar, and I'm not. And that's a subjective value that's related to economics, and like something you would agree we should be free to make those like decisions,
I,
right?
no, you shouldn't, because white chocolate is just sugar. It's not even chocolate. And Logic, I apologize
That's
for
true. That
my
is true.
wording.
That
Yeah, I
is true.
apologize for my wording to that dude earlier, but we were in a live with him and he kept interrupting everyone. And I'm sure Reggie kicked him because he's the reason I left and came over here, to be honest with you.
I left because that Dion woman was defending NATO, and she said she has a NATO flag on her ceiling, and she wants to work for them. So I was a little grossed out.
I almost slapped coffee out of my nose. Stop. Oh my God, that burned. Oh, I snorted it into my sinuses, I'm sure.
But you can
My,
imagine
crit- my Go ahead, Aspen.
to Chris because NATO, and she was justifying imperialism, that we need some level of imperialism.
Hmm.
Whenever I kick anyone, you're welcome to come back later, Skrillard. But it is whenever we're having a conversation, then the panelist comes up and it immediately goes into meta or talking about something else. That's you're gonna get kicked, because I don't wanna get off topic or argue about nothing.
You're just smarter than I am, bro. For real? Is that what you think? Fine, think that. I don't give a shit.
I really don't think he knows what he thinks because to be honest, he sounds a little saucy. If we all know what I mean by saucy.
I think we should make indentured servitude legal.
Yeah. So what is that exactly? It would just be if I wanted to what would that look like exactly, Chris?
So if I needed something and I couldn't afford it, I would indenture myself to you for whatever cost plus interest and, work for you, stuff like that, until I paid it off, basically.
Problem is,
It's like illegal, people say it's legal slavery or consensual slavery or what have you.
but Chris, how would we make sure that was followed? Would there have to be a regulatory board that would make that you have to sign a waiver with the government or a private entity saying that this is how much Chris is going to work with you? Then the moment the day comes she's paid her debt, Chris is going to be
Oh, shit.
free.
Yeah,
Gone came up here to get me. I'm going to mute.
yeah, so this indentured servitude you're talking about, it already exists.
more than half of the population is already into that. It's called fucking credit card debt. You fucking work directly for those things as an indentured servant, paying the interest for this material, paying an interest for the finances, and it's big corporations that own like Visa and MasterCard and American Express and all those places. They're the ones who are actually fucking reaping the rewards of this. It's not necessarily in this idea of like people who were in a circumstance to be like become like slaves in indentured servitude. People just kind of made it into this thing where it's the norm. That's why we have so many people that are in credit card debt.
So
Well,
I
they were
need
given
to,
a choice
yeah.
too. They weren't given a
So I need
choice.
to expand. They were. I need to expand on that a little more. 'Cause this is the bottom of the snake pit, in my opinion, in the sense that when you really look into debt versus fiat, as the interest rates drop, debt becomes cheaper than the inflation rate of fiat, the value of fiat. So it actually the program incentivizes debt, right? Because to hold money is actually an irrational and incentivized position. You will lose equity if you hold fiat versus if you take out debt and you pay it off, you will actually realize more and the profit and less risk. So people who control their debt and are able to leverage the debt system are often the most wealthy. And so this is, from my standpoint, more of a problem with the fiat system than it is whether or not we should legalize indentured servitude. I like how Dargon brought in indentured servitude. Maybe there should be some more limitations on especially young kids getting into massive debts with high inflation. But nonetheless, I think the real problem is the problem with fiat. Because most people, if they could have a store of value that wasn't rapidly inflating, wouldn't be incentivized to seek shelter in places like debt or otherwise.
You get there when money has moved away from a physical standard. Like money does not, the gold standard or like any any of that doesn't exist. So if you move to like say crypto or something, you'd still be in a different problem. You'd still have to fictitiously make up a value for this new credit system.
Well, the fiction is from a regulator or central planner who thinks that there should be, a regulated, fixed, proper value to the commodity. If we removed fiat and we removed crypto and all we had was barter and trade, we would still have this problem of valuing the currency because of what we said. Like if I use sugar and you use salt, right? There's no way to non-fictitiously compare the value of these two commodities. We could use supply and demand, but other than that, that's all that's going to be really relevant, right?
But we
to
run
the
into the
calculation.
same problem in a barter system with supply and demand as we do in capitalism. Because
Exactly.
we only need, like if I'm going to sell you, if I'm going to barter with you for goats, what if you only need half my goat? Am I just going to split my goat? Then I'm out of goats because I could have sold.
Completely agree. We're talking about
I'll
the same
trade
thing.
you a wife for a goat.
So yeah, that one's great. That makes sense. Yeah, that's not a fiction at all. That seems like a reasonable trade. Right. But my point here still lasts that these fictions, right, there are better and worse fictions. And I think that the idea of distributing wealth really has to do with distributing this notion of value. If as a central planner we could create an equilibrium, a set price, a price ceiling, a price floor, right? And we could just regulate the prices of everything. Well, that's the Keynesian perspective. But see, the problem with that is it removes economics. It removes the sovereign individual's subjective valuation on the commodities and their consensual ability to seek opportunities for means to ends, right? If I might value sugar more than you for a reason you don't understand. It's because I know how to make candy, really good candy. You don't care about sugar because all you think is you want protein, right? You're heavy on the steak and that's all you care about. Meanwhile, I'm a confectionery, right? Baker who knows how to leverage sugar and sell it for quadruple the price. This isn't an exploitation. This goes back to your point about labor, contributing labor, but the labor is still going to be valued by the other subjective parties in the marketplace. If someone comes up to my confectionery business and doesn't like my candy, right, a regulator shouldn't say, oh, you have to buy the candy, it's $2, right, or everyone gets a candy, right? No, you can come in and decide for yourself. If you want to even pay the premium price for the $5 candy, right, then you can too. And so this is how economics works. It really leverages the subjective valuation of each individual.
It does, but you can't separate economics from the political structure. So you'd still, the reason the regulatory boards come in and consumer protections exist is because the social contract theory of we have a moral obligation and to each other, and liberal democracies are foundationally contract based, like social contract based societies. So, you know, if I sell Chris a Jack in the Box that's supposed to, you know, sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but instead it blows up, you know, Chris should have it, you know, I broke that contract with Chris, and so if there were no regulatory
Great. Now we're talking
boards,
about domestic tierisms.
if there was no domestic, you know, if there was no consumer regulator, Chris would be, whatever issue would have happened,
Dead.
Chris gets
Oh,
no
he dead.
compensation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I guess from my standpoint, it's like we can put regulations in place to prevent those. No one wants that kind of coercion and corruption in the marketplace, especially that, because that's not even, well, now we're not even talking barter and trade. We are talking tierism or whatever, right? So, but when we put those regulations in place, there's still going to be a financial investment. We have to regulate, we have to enforce these policies, right? We have to go out, we have to have criminal investigations, we have to have police officers or whatever, military, and that is all another just financial investment towards our economic well-being. So in the end, these trade-offs, right, how much money we want to put into enforcing these policies or not, still come down to economic evaluation. If there are, for instance, if we take a vote and the majority of people in the marketplace do not want these regulatory protections, well then it seems incumbent upon us not to enforce it, right? Because the majority of the market.
That's assuming people are voting in good faith, and that's the problem. Is that
Yes.
and that's the problem is that not everyone's going to vote in good faith. So we do need, like, you know, a necessary evil structure. As much as I don't like the state myself, we do need like small infringements on the individual, because, you know, not all individuals are intelligent or worthy of having
Can you define small infringements, please? Because I don't think I like any of that.
small
It's a slippery
infringements-
slope.
Small
It's definitely a slippery
infringements,
slope.
Chris, in the sense that, like, we if the vast majority votes to like defund the police, I'm going to say no, because we need the police, because may the police provide a net negative for a lot of things. If Chris gets schmurdered, we want people to be able to find. I don't trust, you know, a mob of people to find Chris's schmurderer. I trust the people who have the track record of doing that.
But this is the point, right? Is if the majority of people in society with the money and power, quote unquote, don't agree with you, then the reality is there isn't a police force. So you can complain and say all you want, right? But the reality is these policies are enforced by, if you want to call it exploitation, you can, but it's really market dynamics, right?
Well, but market dynamics create situation where, like the Misesian, if you're, it seems like you're going into von Mises territory.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, I love Austrian economics.
and Misesian economics stipulates that we should have like Pinkertons and like private military forces, and everything should be officers of the market. The problem with that is, though, that I don't, you know, Chris can also probably weigh in here, someone who's worked in the military industrial complex to some degree. Chris, would you trust some of your former employers to be the national military and police for our country? Like that, they were the only option. Would you trust them 100% that they're going to follow the laws as they're laid out?
God, no, because that's how you subvert the Constitution and subvert people's rights, actually.
You see, that's the issue we're going to have, is that the Misesians break with the idea of democracy and enter us into a dictatorship of capitalism. The oligarchs who have the money run the system, and
But well, it's not the fact that, like, what I want to make clear here is that like we talked about fictions. We talked about fictions earlier. I think it would just be a fiction to say that this is not how things operate.
well, things operate to that. I mean, I'm not going to lie that there are oligarchs, but there are some legal limits, like on oligarchs. Like right now, they're taking Google to court for being a monopoly, and I agree with that because Google has actually done the opposite of what a so-called free market is supposed to do, because it's cornered the market and made it the only search engine. Like right now, Durian, you, me, and Chris have all probably Googled something once today. We didn't
But bro,
we
but
didn't Yahoo it.
Google is a massive society of people. It's its own country. It's not one person. Google employs half the country.
Did you just call me fat?
I did not.
So, like, to say, like, oh, Google is this big oligarchy, do you mean oligarchy of half the country? Like, how could you put half the country into a context of an oligarchy? Google is a massive, massive company.
But we're talking about the people who run Google. Not everyone who works for
It's a
Google
huge
runs
amount of
Google.
people. The people who the shareholders and the
The
council are
shareholders don't
represent.
really run the company either. I'm talking about the CEOs and the board. The
But I'm saying
shareholders.
this system, right? This system of politics within corporations, I would say, is more efficient at representing the shareholders than the constituents of a democracy. Because what are you even representing in a political? You're trying to tear down the very hierarchy upholding any regulatory policies that actually function in our society. If we were to tear down Google, right, you would be and put all that power in the hands of a democratic representative. Consider how much that would be centralizing versus decentralizing the power.
And
You'd
that's
rather-
the trade-off. That's the trade-off, unfortunately. But I'm inclined to believe that some of the government regulations will, for the meantime, until we can figure out a better solution, keep us all safe and secure, rather than in a system where the market sets everything. I have to trust that Chris and Durian's company actually cares about people and not just profit. Because how do I know that Chris isn't going to pay off the private regulatory board to say
But
that?
how do you know the government's not going to do that? The corporations do that
Exactly.
now through the government, through
Exactly.
lobbyists and other things. So,
And at
I
least-
mean, tit for tat, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
people, at least at the very minimum, need liberty and freedom of themselves.
They do.
Spot on.
They do. Not going to say they do. I'm not going to say.
The shareholder, anyone can be a shareholder. So although yes, the policies have to be profit driven, I don't care about the personal commitments of Google as long as they're making me a profit as a shareholder. The moment they don't make me a profit, I'll just sell my shares and go elsewhere. So it's a more honest exchange, because I'm not looking for virtue signaling. I'm not looking for them to save the world. I am simply, as a shareholder, just looking for profit. And so that makes the value less of a fiction. I'm able to literally evaluate my investment in that company based on their profit. And
So you don't
assuming that
hold-
profit is a result of like mutually consensual trade, right? Well, that means that the profit is being supported and technically voted on by the marketplace. That's why it's a profitable business. It's actually supplying a good or service that's valuable.
So you don't hold the
agree
social
with that.
contract theory and the idea that we all have a moral obligation to uphold certain unwritten rules and values, and the government as well as the individual has a right as to uphold that. Like, I can't just go to Chris's house and punch Chris without any consequences.
Yeah, I
I mean, you
agree
can
with,
if
I
you
agree with
want, but I'm
social
going to whoop
contract
that
theory.
ass.
I agree with social contract theory.
But how can you have a social obligation through a profit-driven system? Who makes sure that the goodwill of the market is for the people actually?
Well,
I'm
it would
a
be the
libertarian in the
individual.
opposite direction. I'm a socialist libertarian, and I don't believe in nation states. To be honest, I believe that everything should be set up on a local level. I just think that nation states eventually lead to corruption because of competing interests by unequal representation in the state and national legislators.
Yeah, okay,
Used to
but
being a mod on the lives I go in, I'm sitting here trying to look and see if anybody's in the box like a dumbass.
you know, I've never given anyone mod powers. I think I got to keep it that way.
I
Like
know.
watching,
That's a
yeah,
W.
watching Coco struggle through the mod thing is like, I don't know, it just
This is
makes
the thing
me.
though. With Coco, like my mods, like you're a mod in my live, so is Durgon, so is Bart, so is Slurms. I mod people that I've watched have disagreements with people and handle it in a respectable way. Coco mods based off of friendships.
Can I? Well,
Yeah.
actually, hold on. So I'm gonna say this, and I'm being honest here. Coco finds it extremely amusing, and he loves like the attention he gets from all this shit, like the bullshit with everybody wanting to fight over like mod powers over
No,
there.
I agree there. That it's just so comical for him. Like it's kind of weird at this point.
No, he loves it, and he's fucking playing that game, and everybody's fucking biting. Like, to me, it's just stupid. I mean, I made some points when they were talking about all this stuff. It's like, my intentions were always, like, to just, like, if I'm gonna be a mod somewhere, my intentions are to make sure, like, I can keep, like, the live safe for everybody. And that's it. Like, there isn't
Yeah.
really anything else to this. It's like what else is the point of it? Like it's
Look,
just to
I'll
show
tell
like
you.
you hold some friends over others.
Yeah, I had
Yeah,
a
that's
friend
really
in real
just,
life who was a mod on my accounts, and I demodded that motherfucker after like 2 weeks because they were starting shit in my lives and kicking people that they didn't like. And I unmodded them, man. They're still pissed at me, and I'm like, but I don't care who you're having a problem with. It's not my fucking business, bro. Keep it out of my goddamn live. Like, that's all there is to it. And I don't know why people can't do that.
I haven't managed to get one friend in real life on this app. I've tried to get a couple of my friends that I talk to, the philosophy and stuff. They will not come on this app though.
Yeah, but
I have
I
about
just wanted to-
15 friends that I met on this app that I'm friends with in real life now, about 15 to 20. And then I have like my mom who watches my lives and stuff like that, who would never in a billion years be a fucking mod on my account, by the way. That's my own damn mother. Because she'll text me. She won't say shit in my chat, but she texts me and talks shit all the time. I'll have to screenshot the messages and put them as my background one day and be like, is your mom this overbearing, question mark? Or something. Because she goes wilding in my text messages sometimes.
Durian, why are you hitting Slurms though? I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like we don't condone domestic violence here. Like that's just ridiculous.
Hold on, BDSM is a whole thing. Some of us like, a little bit of.
I'm excluding BDSM from that, but I'm just saying like Slurms is accusing you of something. I would like you to respond.
Man, Slurms and Darth are like, I actually like them so much as people, and we probably disagree on every topic. It's rare to find people like that. But I love that relationship. I really do. Like, I get more out of the clash and juxtaposition of personalities. I love people that can represent their own actual viewpoint, whether it agrees with me or not, and still remain lighthearted and comical and all that. Like, it's, I really look up to it.
I was listening to someone the other day, and this really rubbed me the wrong way. This person was like, I can't be friends with people whom I'm, completely opposed to their ideologies. And I'm like, how the fuck do you grow as a person then? Because like some of my friends in real life, we don't agree on fucking shit. But we share a sense of humor and jokes and stuff like that. I just don't understand that, how people surround themselves with people who are only minded the way that they are. That's what creates these tribal mentalities and shit. I don't know. It's weird as fuck. Because there is a group of us on here, maybe like 100 of us who we know we know each other, right? Like we interact with each other. We see each other in the comment sections. And like if I name them, like if I say Darth or Bart or Slurms or Coco or Shark, we all know who I'm talking about. And even though we don't all get along all the time or wit or something, you know, and we don't all get along all the time or whatever, and we have our back and forth, we still know who each other are. And there's still like this weird sense of community where, yeah, I can go after a person, but if anyone else outside of our group goes after that person, I'm going to rip their head off, whether or not I'm getting along with them at the time. I think it's still the sense of community that we have, even though we don't all agree on everything.
For sure.
You know, like Chris and I are becoming friends. I would like to think maybe Chris, you know,
Oh, yeah, of course, Aspen. Yeah.
and we don't agree on each other on a lot of things, but I'm very respectful to Chris, and she's very respectful to me. You know, it's like I don't get into this like very cliquey, like, you know, disrespect. You know, like one of my dear friends is a fundamentalist a fundamentalist Baptist, independent fundamentalist Baptist. He's a corporate lawyer now. You know, I don't believe in corporations. I don't believe in any of that. He votes for Trump. You know, I've worshipped at his church. You know, etc. As a trans individual, it's, you know, it's hard to exist in those spaces, but I do it because I want to show these people that not all people in my community, you know, vehemently oppose you. I grew up Mormon. I grew up in a church. I grew up partially attending my teens. I attended evangelical church, so some of the values of Christianity and those hymns still stick with me all these years after leaving the church. And so it's like I'm not one of those people who's going to bash someone for what they believe, as long as you keep it to yourself and don't make it my business and infringe it in law. I'm going to be fine with you. You believe what you want.
It is so pretty out here today. Look at this. Look how pretty it is. Like, look at the sky. Isn't that crazy? There's not a cloud anywhere.
So there's someone on this app that genuinely just like fucking hates my guts. And man, like I don't understand where it's coming from. Like I don't know how this happened. But like genuinely like she thinks that I was born in another age. Sorry, I got a phone call.
Ah, my ears, they're broken.
I'm sorry.
That was funny.
Yeah, like this person just hates my guts, and like they fucking make it known anytime like I'm in a live and they show up. And I don't understand where it's coming from. I've never attacked them, like, but I've called them out on like doing this, and I told them like, hey, you know, like, this isn't the place. Like, other people's lives aren't the place for you to be doing this. Like, if you have an issue with me, like, I'm not, like, I didn't block you. You can send me a message, and if I've made a mistake somewhere, I'd be more than happy to correct myself. You know, it's, but they're not interested in letting me know what I did so that I can actually, you know, correct the wrong. I just don't get it. Like, it's, to me, it's just so fucking weird. I don't know. It's funny.
I was gonna say earlier, like the best music is like a clash of personalities. Like when you have a discussion with someone who disagrees, if you can leverage that, if you can harness it, like that's some of the best art comes out of that kind of like collaborative, the unexpected collaboration, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the actual song? The song that goes, "Look in my eyes, what do you see?" That one?
W. Durgon. W.
And I think
That's
that
funny.
if we could appreciate the differences we have in people, because like we all have something like completely unique about us, right? That makes us who we are. And I think if we could highlight and appreciate those differences instead of damning and condemning those differences, we would be a hell of a whole lot better off. Because I don't want y'all to all be like me, right? That would be so fucking boring and terrible. The world could handle more than one of me. I mean, and I think that we need to realize those type of things and really appreciate each other. And maybe I like to seek out people that have differences of opinions. Like Duragon and I do not agree on everything at all, but Duragon has my phone number and we text back and forth about shit. Like I trauma dump on Duragon all the time, unfortunately. And I think that, you know,
it's these friendships that that are forged, that we don't agree with, people that give you different perspectives and stuff like that, and help keep us in line and check us. Because Duragon's had to check me a few times. He's texted and been like, "Shut the fuck up," and I'm like, "Okay, you're right, you're right." And I think those things are important to have friends who will call you out on your shit.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the reasons I find myself defending these topics like free markets and stuff is because I'm saturated in a culture that doesn't think that way. I'm an outlier. Everyone's community driven and everyone is against profit. And, especially in I'm really into BMX. And if I worked at a BMX shop, and it's all about giving discounts, and it's the definition of a non-exploitative business. It barely makes margins, barely pays rent, and it's just to try and provide this passion hobby for people who are into it. But when I got in there and I started working, I saw that no one took responsibility for things like accounting, basic accounting. And once I went through over the $100,000 of inventory in bikes that they had in the store, there was over $15,000 of discrepancies. And that's something I had to take upon myself as a really new employee to dive into the books, go into the computer and look at the inventory. No one told me to do that. I just love BMX. And I love this entrepreneurial, ideology. And so I pitched it to the manager like, hey, let me in here. Let me try to help grow the business. And so the inventory is one of the first things I did as a testament to sort of economic thinking. And, it didn't go well because when there's $15,000 of discrepancies and no one was able to take responsibility for it, because who knows, some shoes have been given away to kids, others have been just taken home, pocketed, whatever, right? It's hard to reconcile the business. Basically, the business goes under. Right. There's more than 3 months.
Are you a member of the Libertarian Party by any chance, or not? You're not affiliated at present.
Well, I'm in Canada. You mean like the Libertarian, like Liberal Party in Canada?
There's a Libertarian Party in Canada. It's very small.
You meant the actual Libertarian Party? No, I'm not part of. I haven't voted in any election actually. So,
okay. Because if you were in America, I'd say you'd probably. I don't like I'm loosely affiliated with the LP in the U.S. I only agree slightly occasionally. I'm a big contradiction, but I have found the classical liberal caucus of the LP to be USA to be. They're a very nice group of people, and I think they're some of the classical liberal understandings are far more sane to me than the way modern liberalism works sometimes, and
right.
Also some of the way, and it's a little more sane to me than Miesian. But actually, I would say the reason you probably like the LP here is because the LP here, the Libertarian Party of America, does caucuses. Is like every part of the party says the Pragmatic Caucus. There's the Classical Liberal Caucus I'm affiliated with. I'm a member. There's the Radical Caucus I've also been affiliated with. And the current caucus right now is the Mises Caucus, and they run the party. And the current party chair is head of the Mises Caucus and all that. But cool. The problem is that the Mises people are pro-Trump right now, and he actually spoke at the LP convention over the summer, which a lot of people were a little upset about because Trump is not a libertarian in any slight of the word. So why are we having a libertarian at a non-libertarian candidate, at a convention where we were nominating candidates for president for the Libertarian Party?
Sure. Yeah, it's a difficult issue to deal with as a Miesian, because ultimately you don't want to enable government. You want to shrink government. It's hard to infiltrate government by shrinking it. It's not a very widespread campaign. Anyways, this culture of sort of taking responsibility for finances is one that I find rare in the where I'm at least, and I think that it's important. I think that all it would take for a successful storefront in a place like this would be to maybe take their accounting a little more seriously and their marketing, and maybe be a little more profit driven. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially if it's going to support the services and brick and mortar businesses that provide those crux community hubs for the culture. There's nothing wrong with making a profit off that. I don't think it's based in greed. I think it's necessary. I think it's good to make a profit off of it, especially if it's a mutual exchange, right? Mutually consensual exchange. Like something I brought to the store was the idea of starting kids camps, right? And obviously there's this ethical issue of like, how much do you charge parents to take care of their kids and teach them BMX? Also, if you want to make a program for underprivileged kids, right, you're not going to be targeting them if you're trying to make a profit. So balancing all of these issues is obviously part of the business, but ultimately, without a sense for being profit driven, I don't see how any of these programs would even begin to get off the ground at all. And I think that that's fine. I think making money, like part of wealth distribution, can function through a small business. If I have a rich parent come in who's willing to pay retail price for a top end bike, that profit margin can go back into the business and fund something like a program for a used bike for a kid who's underprivileged. And that's the recycle and redistribution of how profit can be leveraged in a local community capitalistically.
I agree with you. I do lean toward free market, but I also lean toward, social programs, because I do think social programs are something that is important, because
Totally.
of the need for, a lower class. I don't think anyone should be at a permanent disadvantage, and I do think that occasionally people do need a hand up, and not necessarily a hand out, because I do think that those programs should be more designed to help people get a leg up in life and not stay in the current situation to where they become lifetime dependents on these programs. And I think that's something that is flawed in the system currently, is the fact that they don't seem to be geared toward hand ups. They seem to be geared toward the handout because there's no incentive. I actually think people on social programs should get free college or free trade school, and that they should be able to stay on those programs and be weaned off of them as they graduate and stuff like that. I think that makes a big difference in life.
It does, but there's no incentive to to government to do that, because they want to use those people as a bargaining chip to say, this is what we do for you. And then when the economy is bad, they're like, this is why the economy sucks, because of these people. They need these lower
think it's
income
actually bigger than that.
scapegoats. It's bigger,
think
but
it's big.
that's one of them.
I
One of
think
the
that
factors.
what they want to do is, when you are controlled, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, if that makes any sense.
No,
And I think that that's the way that they view this, is if they can keep people dependent upon a system that's not working for them, that it will make it easier to control. And I think that we've actually seen the repercussions of that, and I think it does work.
I mean, like, look at the Nordic countries, for instance. They have lovely welfare programs. Everyone seems to relatively, like, taking care of the very few people are unhoused because they have just so much government housing. But the moment someone complains, they bring out police, they lash out, or the moment the economy dips, like you're seeing in these countries, their economy is dipping, they begin saying, oh, we don't need more migrants, we need to get them out because they're ruining our system, but not realizing that they've created a problem for themselves, because they've created people dependent on a system that they also didn't encourage them to continue paying into. So now the
this
system is breaking apart.
I guess what I'm trying to drive home is I think the ultimate lie is we're being told that if things were left up to free market economics, it would divulge into greed and exploitation rather than community programs that are profitable. My whole claim here is that community programs are profitable. They don't need to be propped up by the government. Naturally, the market will supply these community programs, like in the bike example that I gave. If I had a shop and next to me is a competing bike shop, you don't think that by marketing to the underprivileged community, targeting that community, will outperform and outcompete my neighboring stores? Like I will be the one hosting the jams. I will be the one with the majority of clientele, not because of simply my exploitation, but because of my my social and community investment, right? Our businesses are directly integrated into the way we invest into our communities, and that's the way that profit grows. So that the ultimate lie here is that profit is just greed and exploitation. I think that generally, more than not, social programs are actually profitable. It's profitable to do a social program. We don't need these handouts, because if people were able to, have a little more leniency and less regulation on building a small business, they would provide services to the community. It would be a social program, whether it's affordable or not, would sort of be played out in how successful the business is.
Let's take it a step further. Like, you're assuming that everyone has good intentions when they do things. And you're also assuming that
there's a competition. There's a marketplace of competitive actors. Lots will fail. I'm saying that the success will be an indicator on their social.
Let's say I'm a private charity. I run a private charity for the unhoused. And so I am giving out, blankets, I'm building houses for these people. But in the process of building these houses, the reason I'm able to keep their rent so cheap in these houses is I'm using lead paint. I'm using the cheapest materials possible, but it passes all the let's say there's still some regulations on houses are built. It passes all the regulations of the private regulatory agency or whatever agency, but people are unaliving in my homes. But I'm morally, should I be held accountable? Because I was giving these people homes. I was charging them, a small rent for these low income houses, but I'm basically creating a condition that gives them, that limits their life. Because
it's all relative, because if you're taking someone off the street, out of a tent, and putting them into lead painted walls, I don't know. It would be hard to compare those two when we actually step back and look at the relative harm being prevented or done here. Those are comparable, I would say. I would probably forgive the man who built them a house with lead painted walls and sort of neglected that fact to get them off the street. Maybe there's priorities there. Then again, I might eat my words, because I don't know exactly where these thresholds pay off, and that's where I think leaving it up to the autonomous individual is really important. If we were to step in and regulate the man trying to build the houses with lead painted walls, I don't think that's the best thing to do. Maybe find a way to provide him with different paint, right? But just simply regulating him out of the market is not the way about it, I don't think. And that's typically what happens. We find these small, minute issues with the services being provided, and then we cut it right back to, well, let's not have any services at all. And we'll put everyone on food stamps, and no one will be productive at all, and all your labor is pointless, and it's all liability. Public space is a liability, right? And we divulge into this slippery slope. How is it possible that public space is a liability? If I'm in a public space, right, how is it that my existing there is a liability? It doesn't make any sense. And these are the kinds of policies that social policies sort of degrade into without private property. If we don't uphold private property, then how do we begin to regulate public property? It makes absolutely no sense.
I'm for certain, I believe that we should have basic utilities, and unused land should be public property that we all collectively share, because we run into the issue that, at least in the US, a lot of land on the side of highways aren't really being used, and in some cases it is state land, or it is owned by a farmer who doesn't even use the land, but it's just sitting there. But
such a great example. State highways coming in and taking over farmers' land.
Well, but the farmer's not. The issue isn't that my issue is that if the farmer, who's providing us with food and stuff, if he's not using all his land, I don't see why some of his land can't be used for public good, in the sense that we're not going to stop him from farming.
Oh, that's how you
Well, because okay, for instance, if you go to Vietnam, you have to pass through checks every half an hour on the highway. Every half an hour, there's a new border patrol that you have to go through, pay a fee for the next leg of highway that you're going down. Literally every 20 minutes, half an hour down the highway. And this is because it's a communist system. It's funny that a person who isn't financially educated might think that this appears to be a capitalist system. Look at all the privatized land. Look at all the borders. But in fact, what it is the slippery slope of social programs trying to decentralize the private ownership of land. We can cooperate and build a federal highway system, right? But it's going to take the honorability of each individual private owner of land to contribute their land to the project. We cannot politicize our way through the issues of property ownership. If we do, what it causes is more boundaries and less cooperation, like in the terms of communist Vietnam. You can see that their highway system is absolutely atrocious, right? Because there's absolutely no cooperation within the system of private property ownership.
Vietnam wasn't fully realized communism either, though. Remember, they got invaded in the Sino-Vietnamese War when China invaded Vietnam in 1979, February of 1979 to be exact. And that was when Russia and China were having the rush of the communists, even though they weren't completely and totally realized communism. So that needs to be realized.
So yeah, expand on that, because I'm reading what Slurms is saying as well. What do we mean by not fully realized communism there? Yeah, expand on that a bit.
So they hadn't quite realized communism and gotten to the full aspect of dissolution of the state, because that is the final step toward getting rid of, the systems in which we have and moving toward communism, because communism results in the eventual dissolution of the state.
And and so how would that look in terms of when you see it in the highway manifested? You would picture like just an open road? Or what would you picture this dissolution of state in terms of like a highway project? How would you see that as, oh, here's a communist system? Would you picture like an open road, no tolls? Or would you picture a bunch? How would you picture?
Yeah.
Right.
It would just depend. Because Whisper, she doesn't know there is no fully realized bullshit cough. I mean, God damn it, Bear. Stop. Bear's bullying me.
A road is a great example, right? Because it's this project. We have to cooperate together. We're building a project communally. It's a community project. And it's this balance of we're going to have a public land. Everyone can use the highway, right? We all own and pay the taxes to keep the highway up. Yet it's this balance of intertwining through the fabric of private property as you drive across the country.
So you are for the state then, and you are for regulations then, correct?
Well, I'm saying I think the problem of the road is a great project to wrap our heads around these different issues. We have to, I don't know how, this is, what an interesting topic to consider, these dynamic problems. It's this balance of, because I'm with the project. I want a road. Right, don't get me wrong. So I think it's a good metaphor to drive home.
How do you go about getting the road?
Right. Yeah, like I'm a community. If you want to drive home the idea of community and realizing this manifestation of ultimate abundance, a road that goes across the country, right, for everyone to go on, I'm with that project. I'm for it. But now every time we do a new leg of the road, there's this problem of negotiating with the farmers, politicizing, campaigning. How are we going to fundraise? How are we going to pay the tax dollars? Is every way we maintain this road just uniform across the country, or perhaps states uphold their projects of maintenance a little differently in infrastructure than others, right? On the East Coast and versus the West Coast, and all of these delegations, really the road is a great platform for how our politics, right, runs. It's really sort of the manifestation of our politics. Like, how well do the roads run? Is the infrastructure working or not? Are the roads, and then there's a bigger problem of, are roads even worth talking about? Is everything going to be an electric car in 30 years? Are we all going to be flying? Like, are we all taking on this road project maybe a little bit too, minutely? Is there a bigger issue at hand? Of course, I recognize that too, right? But I think that ultimately this idea of the road is like a really good topic. It's like I don't think there's a clear answer, but when the road is done, you can tell what systems work better and which don't. And when I go to Vietnam, I can witness the difference in road quality. It's absolutely apparent, right?
Well, I mean, I'm just wondering, like the issue I have is like, will government or even or the market eventually devolve into itself? Will the contradiction still arise? Will Because there's only so much competition, only so much resource to go around, and so will we devolve into in both scenarios, which will devolve quicker? I think it's clear to say that government does devolve because of mismanagement and bad faith government, and the fact that capitalism sort of degenerates things in the government. But what about if we see in a system where there is a small, almost non-existent state, and it is corporation? Will corporations eat society in over the course of a period because of the need to compete? I don't like what this is why I'm for like regulations. If we wanted to maintain capitalism, there needs to be some regulations, like monopolies need to be stopped, antitrust laws need to be enforced, small regulatory bodies need to exist in order to stop the market from doing what the market does when it's not regulated, which eats itself.
Right. I don't. Yeah, I hear where you're going with that. I sympathize with what you're saying, but when I think of like Google, whether it's eating itself or eating the country, like I don't really see that as like Google is just expanding, and by expanding, you're going to have these decentralized pockets of policy.
But you see how it's a contradiction there, because you're saying competition, but if Google's expanding, how are they competing? How are they, if all of they're doing is buying up smaller companies?
Perfect. Yes, dude. Because remember, from a Miesian perspective, I'm considering the autonomous individual, the sovereign individual. So when you say they're expanding, well, they're incorporating, right? What a corporation does is they're incorporating other entities. That incorporation doesn't look like competitive deletion. It looks like cooperation, competitive cooperation. It looks like mutually beneficial contracts. It doesn't look like the destroying.
What stage does it stop being mutually beneficial? Like there's going to have to be
consent to the individual. The consent to the individual.
But there's going to have to be some way to.
For instance, at a certain point when the highway's almost built, then there's one stubborn farmer that will not budge. You've offered him the $30 million deal for the plot of land to finish the highway. The government keeps upping the price and bargaining, and he will not budge. Well, they then regulate it. They say, this is the price. We're giving you this money, and we're taking your land. You don't have a say on this anymore. We're building a cross-country highway. And so
eventually you are for the government stepping in if it is to protect the market. So you'd say that if this man is not willing to sell, you're going to basically have him forcibly either removed, or you're going to basically say, if you don't take this money, we're just going to do it anyways and screw you.
Well, I'm whether I support it or not, I don't know. I just think that that's like the inevitable state of the marketplace. Like that is how the market will work. I don't know. I could be in support of the farmer probably, but it doesn't really matter, right? If the whole country wants to build the road, what are me and a few guys in the farm are going to do? We're going to eventually have to eat our words. I can still stand there and say, humbug, they took our farm, right? I could still have that opinion, but I'm also recognizing like, hey, this is just the reality of the market.
Well, and this is why I'm for what was tried in successfully in Cuba, agrarian reform. The people who work the land and the farmers own that land, and so in that way, the state cannot infringe on that because the land belongs to the farmer and their family. That land belongs to them, and what they produce there is theirs, rather than the fact that the government can come in. The government has to have permission now, because the land belongs to those who work it and who know know how everything there.
That sounds like private property. That sounds like private property ownership and more like free market capitalism.
Well, no, it's not private property, because the agrarian reform says that those who work the land should own the land is different, because these people aren't doing it to make a profit. They're doing it to feed. They're still going to provide a service to the world. They're still going to do all of that, but they're sharing the profits among each other and providing for their community rather than and it's them. There is no big daddy at the top. It is everyone in that farm is unionized, and they all collectively come to a decision of this is how many hours a week we're all working. We all voted on that. That's how that works.
But my problem with this, so there's a few things that you contradicted yourself there with, in my opinion. Like, I liked where you were going with it, but then this idea of like unionizing and voting on the amount of hours we work, why can't we just leave it up to the individual? Why can't we just leave it up to each individual to delegate how much they want to work, how often, and how profitable they want to be? Some people want to work really hard and make more money, others don't. Why can't we leave it up to the competitive market? Why do we have to always like vote and regulate all these neurotic like micro things in there?
It's because these people are providing, like, if you live in a small farming community and everyone owns that farm, and if Johnny here didn't work, then that's all the food we have, and all the food we have is not there because Johnny and a few other people decided, hey, I don't want to work as much, but so we're not going to pick this plant, and so it went bad, and so we're trying, and we're also trying to change relations because gradually we'd move away from that and to the idea that we're like, one of the big things that Che advocated for was we called voluntary free labor. So on Sunday, he would say the day you're off, since we're trying to move away from profits and commodities, we should all go, and if you see your neighbor has a broken fence, you and a bunch of you will go fix that fence, because you are doing it not because you're getting paid to do it, you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart, and to show this person that you value them, and you're trying to change your relations to society by showing that labor doesn't necessitate profit or payment. Labor is just something human beings innately do to better society as a whole.
Okay, so a few things there. I don't take labor to be valuable in itself. There's degrees of valuable labor. Some people you can go chip away at a rock all day, right? It doesn't matter. I don't value that. So labor in itself is not valuable. I don't care if you're on the farm picking weeds. You're not as valuable as the person who knows every angle of the plot of land and who knows how to work and fix all of the machinery, right? You can pick weeds all day. You're never going to contribute to the farm as much as the person who's knowledgeable about all those things. We can try to teach everyone, but again, I don't think equitable knowledge is something we should regulate into the farm or into the community or into the market. I think we each have individual contributions to the farm, and recognizing that there's a hierarchy in that is just a natural formation of the world. I don't know, to try to build a fiction that equalizes.
That's a very 19th century mechanical view of biology and nature. I think there's a lot more complexity to that. There is no natural order of the world. The very fact the world came to be as it is now is really an accident. The conditions had to be right to do that. So the fact that human beings can do any of these things was really, like a spark in a dark room. It's like someone turning on a light. That's
you don't think what I was getting at though is that the diversity and education and knowledge is part of human nature. That's really what I was getting at. When I made a comment about nature, all I was talking about is like this condition of humanity, which is that we have diverse sets of capabilities, skills, knowledge, and that creates a natural hierarchy within the set.
No, knowledge in itself doesn't make, because the thing is that, in this case, if we wanted to say that, then the business owner to me is less valuable because he just runs the business, but necessarily the business owners know how to run the machines. Like the factory worker knows.
Wait, hold on. Look, I don't think it's that simple. Like when you're talking about someone who's a business owner, they're the ones who've invested like the time and the energy and the material, like the finances into actually having the
The
business
risk.
itself.
The
It's
risk.
all of the risk is on this person. If they bought like, let's say, $100,000 worth of machinery and the business fails, the employees get to go somewhere else and find another job.
Spot on.
No, not necessarily. I mean, that they don't go to. It's not easy to find another job. I mean, they're like if
But
that
you're
was.
not accounting their risk is not anywhere near the financial risk of the person
I
making
mean,
the investment.
yeah. I guess there's a financial risk. I'll concede to that, but I would still say that the business owner doesn't know what anything these things do. Like he doesn't know. Most of them don't know what the factory actually does. They just know it makes them money, and that's about it. But
I don't
you
know
know,
why you'd assume that.
okay, so are you going to tell me that Elon Musk knows what every part of a Tesla does? That if he didn't have engineers, if he didn't have people on the assembly line working in his Tesla factory, that he could do it all himself. He would know how all of this worked, from scratch.
I think from a top-down view, as far as like the brand Tesla, yeah, he probably has the best vantage point on the entire company. He doesn't need to know the microeconomics of every detail because his job's to be the top eagle eye of the trajectory of the entire company.
Microeconomics. I'm talking about does he know what a Tesla does? Does he know why the Tesla is so
that is
efficient?
micro. That is micro. That is microeconomics.
No, that isn't microeconomics. That is
Sure.
the fundamentals of the mechanism that makes him money. It's the fundamentals
Considering
of
the
his product.
value of one individual car or the mechanisms of one individual product within the massive umbrella that is Tesla is microeconomics. The macro idea of Tesla is way bigger than the one car or one product or one robot. He has a trajectory of the entire business, which is much grander and much more macro than an engineer concerned with the brake pads working and functioning with the computer system.
I don't know.
If you were to make an argument about to the higher ups in Tesla about the unprofitability of the new brake pad system, and they said, "Don't worry about it. We're willing to put the extra 10 grand it takes to make these brake pads work," and you sat in your engineering desk and tried to calculate how are they making money off these brake pads? They seem to be losing money. There's no economics here. You would talk to him, Elon, and he'd say, "Bro, it doesn't matter how many brake pads we're selling. We're not selling brake pads, right? We have a bigger trajectory here. Our market, our shareholders are not, we can take some losses. We can take losses on certain things." He has a huge risk management portfolio. He's willing to take literal economic losses. This is what the risk management business is all about in his business. He's literally delegating for losses. So there are microeconomic adjustments he's making for losses in the business, and from a micro perspective, there would be no justification for those losses. How would you justify them? So that's kind of why the freedom and sovereignty is so important in the free market, because if we didn't have this ability for the macroeconomics, right, the choices of a investor to delegate for losses, and we regulated our way through all of the mismanagements of businesses, we would be eliminating the competitive distribution of cooperative marketplace economics. It would literally eliminate all incentive to cooperate with one another, which is ironic because a progressive mindset is that we should be communal and cooperate and distribute the wealth, but none of their policies and ideologies match that idea.
That's the problem that I have with progressivism is it's still capitalism. It still is it's they're still operating like social democracy is still capitalism. A democratic socialism is just capitalism, welfare capitalism, but there's still class structure. There's still businesses. There's still corporations. It's just now the corporations are also getting welfare along with the citizenry. And the problem is.
So you're picturing a system with no classes. Say those things again that would be required for, I suppose, like a true socialist system or communist system.
It's a gradual
no class
process.
division. I get that. But
we won't get there right away, and I think we'd get to a workers and farmers government first, and we'd probably be there for give or take 100, maybe 200 years, as the world starts adopting more socialist economics, because communism as a economic model cannot exist in one country. It must be a world system, or it can't exist. That's the issue.
And
Like there is
I get
no
that.
communist nation that's
What
ever
were the
existed.
things? What were the things that would like necessitate that system? It would be a classless system. What were the other ones? Like there'd be no classes, and there'd be no distinction between labor and farmer. Is that what are the other ones?
We'd be in a workers and farmers government first. Like Cuba's a workers and farmers government right now, and that's and they don't have class structure like as
Cuba doesn't have class structure.
No, it doesn't.
Whoa, I don't even know what you mean by that.
Well, everyone's equal in the eyes of the state. There is no higher. Everyone like all the unions have a vote in the National Assembly. Like
Everyone's equal in the eyes of the state and in the U.S. too.
Not in the same way. Like the fact is, in Cuba, every neighborhood is a doctor. Like neighborhood doctors are a thing, and their COVID vaccine, if you Google it from the World Health Organization, was far more effective than ours was in the U.S. That
Crazy.
by
I've never even tried. I literally have no idea what it even mean to have no class structure. Like you mean in the eyes of the state? I'm trying to even look. What does that even mean? Like in the eyes of the state, all laws are. There's no law that gives privilege to someone in a different class.
I think this has a lot to do with like media and not pushing like ideas of conspiracy to like the masses.
Yeah, expand on that, Derek.
That was
What do you mean?
probably I just realized after I said it wasn't very good English. Sorry.
No, I think you're good. Just expand on what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. The idea that like within like Western culture, like media kind of becomes like this shit show where information is not necessarily what the media is about. It's just about like saying shit, and getting people excited about stuff, and like just being able to like glue people into the screens. Sorry, this could be a little bit loud. It's more about
Your audio's bad, Derek. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's more about gluing the people in front of the screen than to actually like giving them information. So, if you can add like ideas of conspiracy to the people, where like this becomes a thing where they're going to think about and kind of have conflict within themselves, it's going to feed more into the idea of like how much government is needed and how much of it is going to be needed. Versus like maybe other places where they're not necessarily interested in that bullshit.
So you mean like as far as the class structure goes, a place like Cuba is less interested in the relate it to this class dynamic in Cuba.
So, like in Cuba, like the reason why, like just the whole COVID thing working out so much more smoothly versus the U.S. is because the population over there, for the most part, are not under the impression, oh, like government's trying to like fucking implant chips into us and like control us and shit. Am I making sense?
Yeah. The conspiratorial thinking. Yeah.
The Cuban government, the Cuban people, for the most part, but they'll have their issues with the way the regime is running. But for the most part, the average Cuban trusts the government and the healthcare they get. Most of the time, the reason they leave is they don't like the economic issues that the embargo has caused, and the fact that they can't afford goods. But for the most part, they love their healthcare there. I mean, they love what quite get there. It's Cuban doctors actually, even American and Canadian doctors will get trained at the University of Cuba's the Cuban Medical School because they offer free or reduced tuition.
It's so
For
funny because
not
to me that sounds like class structure. Seems like class structure between the academic medical institution and the non-medical institution.
No, because
Does
everyone has
seem like class
access.
structure to me.
Everyone has
Yeah,
access to
but
medical
that's
school.
assuming everyone wants access to that.
No,
It's a class structure.
it's not assuming. It's like if you don't want it, you don't have to. But like everyone can go as far as they want in the Cuban education system. It's a matter of wanting to as an individual. But you're not going to be seen as less than just because you're working as a farmer or you're working as a bus driver. No, you're just you're just different.
I'd be skeptical of that. I hear you though. I sympathize, but I would be skeptical. I would say that there's still got to be a class struggle there for sure. Because these programs are incentivizing a class shift. A shift in class is literally. I don't know how you'd even escape that. That's an interesting idea though. Like, my heart is with someone who's that idealistic. I get where you're coming from, but I just well, maybe this is to your point about maybe communism never really being able to be fully realized or like way down the road type thing. Like, I can't picture a society without class struggle.
Well, and that's the thing is like as the problem with capitalism is it bases its ideas in ideas alone, not in material structures. And material structures are what govern the world, not ideas. The market doesn't exist. The market is a fiction. It's as fictitious as Jesus is.
But the competition of ideas is that is what the marketplace is. For instance, this is my good thought experiment on this topic. I like to think about a utopian society where everyone has all the healthcare and food and abundance they need. And in the center of the city, the clean, sustainable, fresh, beautiful city, there's an art gallery and like a public square. And every day, because everyone has so much free time and time to express and think deeply and empathize and experience culture together because they're not toiling away on the farm or whatever, they go to this art gallery and, dance and sing and create art. That's kind of like this utopian vision of what I would say is like kind of like a beautiful heaven-like society. I still think at the art gallery, there would be this competition of ideas. And I think the flourishing of our culture would rely on that competition. There would still be the talented singer who is beautiful and top notch compared to everyone else in the marketplace. The baker who just has goods that no other baker can compete with, and of course the cliche humpback of Notre Dame, right? The person who's a castaway in the corner who has no skills, no beauty, no contribution to the marketplace, even though he has everything technically right provided for him. And even in this society, there's no evil doing to the hunchback, right? He's forgiven, and perhaps even on days he's uplifted too, right? He's the hero on some days, but nonetheless, I think that the hierarchy still would exist. For us to turn our cheek to the talent and beauty of the square would be to dismiss our own inner aesthetic, to dismiss our own nature, the very nature that drives us to be better and to judge those who are worse, And I think that these discrepancies are key, regardless of whether you want to call yourself a communist or capitalist or whatever. Thinking in these utopian ways still provides this platform for like competition of ideas.
Well, I don't think that it's a nature thing. Human beings don't have a nature. They have a subjectivity, but they don't have a nature. There was nothing innate about my behavior. All of my behavior, even the idea of hierarchy is learned. I think that there is no, we can add on, biologically, the brain and recognize hierarchy. I think it's a little of nonsense.
So in this thought experiment, do you think that still the hierarchy is learned?
I would say there is no hierarchy because the way you're proposing there has to be. Like what I'm just saying is that people are enjoying different things. We can enjoy different things.
But that creates a hierarchy because you're competing for attention.
No, because you're seeing these as economic things. I'm seeing them as in a system.
Well, we don't have to.
where there is no economic.
There's no money in
but
this utopia. There's no money
but
necessarily.
competition incesses economic gain. There is no competition outside of economics.
But I'm saying that our nature is to compete for even attention, right? Like the public square, the best artist is getting everyone's attention, and that just drives this economic reality. There's no way to equilibrate the attention.
But that's you unwilling to perceive that that there is no set reality when it comes to the way we perceive things. There's a set material reality, but how I perceive structures and things will always change. There is no finite perception. There is just perception.
But but I'm saying that the perception of the humpback who has no skills is equally as valid, is equally as, we could say, valuable in this society as the talented musician. Nonetheless, the talented musician will be propped up as the hero every time. There's no way to deceive ourselves into propping the hunchback up, because he's not contributing to the marketplace of art. It's this, we don't need to call it economic or competitive, but it is a natural
marketplace of art. It is art. It is art for its own sake. It is art for its purest enjoyment, the sublime. Like things can exist without having a value. They can just exist because I enjoy them.
I'd be skeptical of that. I think we act in value. I think we can't act without valuation. Every time we act, we're using some sort of sense of value, and that's the thing you're ultimately trying to escape here. You're trying to give everyone that sense of benefit of the doubt of valuing their human nature, and I give that to them too, but if you're really going to give that to them and see them for who they are, I think we do have to build this
if I were really to see human beings for who they are, I would say that ultimately human beings, at least in my view, I lean towards pessimism occasionally, but I would say that I would love a social society, but I think ultimately human beings are corrupt and entities that are fallible, and it's more likely at this point that we will descend into barbarism.
So what? Yeah, in a way I kind of agree with you. I'm asking you this though: what part of, is the humpback corrupt, or is the society corrupt?
I would say the society can be corrupted, yes.
But the humpback can't.
He can be corrupt as an individual in his own action, sure.
I mean purely in the sense that he's like a humpback. He's just
not purely as a humpback. He's
not of ideal form.
What do you mean by ideal form?
Ideal form would at least, I don't really know what I mean by it either in its complete sense, but at least we'd have to agree that it doesn't include a humpback. And that's kind of this.
I don't know. That gets into very dicey territory. There is no ideal form to that is again, that's a subjective
to hate society for turning their cheek away from the humpback and towards the beautiful singer at the marketplace is to make the argument that society is corrupt. And I defend society in that sense. I don't think there's anything wrong with appreciating the beauty and elegance of a talented musician, and in that valuation and choosing to act and pay attention to them rather than the humpback in the corner, I think is a rational and good decision. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I think there's something wrong with drawing your attention away from it, blaming society, and looking to the dark corners of society to find your value, right? I think that is an irrational way of working through the world to try to, because it paints society through the darkness. You're working backwards into the darkness. You're working away from society rather than towards the ideal at the front of the stage. No one's saying the singer at the front of the stage is the ideal. Tomorrow there'll be a new talent, and perhaps it will be the humpback. But the point is, if we don't prop up this game, right, of paying attention to that is at least working towards the ideal, we lose our perspective, right? Whether we want to call it socialist or capitalist or economics or whatever, even in the utopian thought experiment, our whole sanity depends on this valuation problem. We have to be able to relatively value things and discard things that are not valuable and appreciate those that are, to our own survival and to our own sanity.
I'm not sure that. I mean, this is where idealism often it goes to its logical conclusion. It starts making no sense. I mean, it's it's one of the reasons why Marx wrote the German ideology to discuss why he felt the young Hegelians, who he had once been a part of, were wrong, because their ideas ultimately were grounded in nothing. They could not ground themselves in a clear view of philosophy that actually provided nothing, that provided a utility along with something that would actually change the world. It was just he was tired of just going to salons where people were debating these questions rather than actually saying, what are we doing? And I think the same can be said about the capitalists, the diehard capitalists. Because realistically, I don't think human beings want, the government wants to live in a pure capitalist society. I don't think it's ever going to work. Just like I don't know if we'll ever live in a pure social society, because both require living on a contradiction of forcing a change in the system. And for the Misesian, that might be an issue because they still hold to the non-aggression principle of libertarianism. And so to me, I don't know how you can come to abolish regulatory bodies without some form of aggression or radical change. Like, I don't know if that's possible. We live in a system that's been set up, liberal democracy has been set up this way, and it's decaying. But rather than fixing it, they're saying, oh, we can just throw it away and move this way. Or in the communists saying, oh, we can just do a revolution. But both are leading into a force mentality, which they both claim to be against force.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. That's kind of why I was like laughing at this libertarian perspective on Mises being represented in democracy, because I said, like, I don't know how much a campaign that parties on not supporting the government is going to succeed in infiltrating the government. Because to your point, right, if to the extent that you're harmfully infiltrating the current system and overthrowing anything, I wouldn't say that that's aligned in any free market system, unless that system you're overthrowing truly is like a tyrannical one. I think I have a lot of room in my heart for what you're saying about, like, if a regulatory policy is competing in the market against other regulatory policies, there's an element there of free market economics, even just for policies. I think that's what we kind of see going on in the crypto community. Cryptocurrency is this experiment in protocol, right?
It is.
Anyone, right, and everyone can kind of choose their own protocol. If you don't like this one, go to that one, and the most successful one will be the one everyone chooses, or whatever. So there's this experiment going on, basically, in what you're saying. It's like we can consent to protocol
with crypto, in the sense that it's the crypto bros and tech people are investing in it, but I think they're making it bad, because crypto was never designed to replace currency. It was designed as a black market currency for people in the criminal underground. And now that you are making it like available, but you're upsetting, to use a word, a delicate balance. The crypto underground world, was for the criminal underbelly, and the criminal underbelly is somewhat necessary for a capitalist structure to exist. If you can't find goods within the market, you create, markets, and sometimes these markets can be very unethical. I mean, I would say that the black market is libertarian economics at its logical conclusion, except it's not operating in good faith. It's just operating in the sense that I want to sell durian, pharmaceuticals that I make. They're not regulated pharmaceuticals, but I'm going to sell them these pharmaceuticals, knowing that it's a felony in both our countries or where we're at to sell these pharmaceuticals. But I don't care. I'm going to sell them, and I'm going to use this internet money to give Durian online my pharmaceuticals I make. But that's basically, and that's the issue we're having is that the when you bring this into the light, then you bring in government bodies into
So
the.
I agree with you that it was never designed, crypto or whatever you want to generalize into that term, was never quote unquote designed to replace fiat money. But I don't agree that it was designed quote unquote to, fuel the black market. You can just read each white paper of each currency to see what they're literally designed for.
Well,
And they're
Bitcoin
mostly
was.
designed, no, a Bitcoin was designed to just solve a tech problem. What it's utilized for, whether it's utilized on Silk Road or a black market, is not the actual problem that the white paper is trying to solve at all. You can read the white paper of Bitcoin, and it's solving, peer-to-peer network problems, double spend issue, network correction, like network
Okay, well,
difficulty problems.
but the thing is that the people who designed it weren't necessarily designing it with a moral implication. They didn't care. Like maybe you're saying that they.
You're wrong.
I haven't.
You're wrong. It was specifically to solve technical problems, computing problems. That's what the
It's not a
paper's for.
moral issue, though. Computing processes.
Well, that's an interesting claim. I would say it's tied. It's interesting how it did actually have moral implications, actually. That's why it does have such astounding ripple effects in the culture. It did have moral implications, not to the agenda of the creators of it, but more to the ongoing system at hand. What we're talking about. It brought into question our current banking system. That was the profound shift that happened. The white paper changed how we look at computing fiat currency, basically.
That was always going to be the way we were banking was already being questioned. I mean, and I think this is
Yes, but this
accelerated
offers a
it.
solution. This offers a solution.
Yes, a solution that right now no country wants to adopt because
When you say country, I don't know what you mean by that, because tons of financial institutions have adopted Bitcoin, but outside of that, it's not meant ever to be an institutionalized thing. It's meant to be freeing the sovereign individual, and tons of
but
individuals
how do you
have
direct
adopted it.
value is value cannot be set person to person or needs to be set by a regulatory body if it's going to keep the world economy afloat. The world economy
That's
needs.
where we completely disagree. That is where we completely disagree. For instance, if I'm going to build a house, I don't need a regulatory body to set inches. We just have to come to a conclusion on a standard, you and I, whether we use the metric system, the imperial system, or we set our own system, right? We can still build a house using our own metrics, and that standard of building a house does not need a third party to validate our metric. And that's what Bitcoin's utilizing. There's no necessary party for third party interaction in terms
how
of
do
accounting
I
for
guarantee that
validating the network.
But like this is the problem. So in my country, when we started the national bank, the reason we started it back in the 1700s was because there were structural issues with every state having its own currency during the original 13 states of the United States. And so when we decided to establish one currency, it made economics work. Buying and selling things easier. It created a sort of structural integrity to the economy. And I think that makes sense. Like everyone should be like, if I go to Canada and buy a candy bar, I should be paying equivalent to what is what's in my currency by the exchange rate. So
This is completely wrong, man, because there is no equilibrium price for a candy bar.
Yeah,
The simplest something is a candy
I
bar.
would disagree with that also.
How would you come to an equilibrium price? If you go through your city, even there's literally a massive range of prices.
candy bars with the
Candy bar.
so
It's a great example.
Okay, candy bar
Because
or maybe
someone who walks to the store at 7-Eleven at 2 a.m. and gets a high-end imported chocolate bar from Britain should have to pay up the yin yang, versus going and buying that store at the British import store from hours that they operate, going to the local vendor and working out at a discount because they buy the whole box. They should get a discount on the imported good. There's no reason why there should be an equilibrium price. If I wanted to start my own store and import Belgian chocolate bars and sell them at a retail price, I should set that retail price based on the services I provide. If my store sucks, I have to give them at a discounted price. If I have a plethora of rare and vintage different items, right? Now I can up the price. If I offer a service, online shipping, all these things, now I can delegate my price of that chocolate bar based on not just the chocolate bar, right? It's my whole brand, my videos, everything I'm doing to the chocolate bar. Maybe I'm even incorporating the chocolate bar now into a recipe I've made, right? And so we get into these whole and now you're talking about economics and the whole premise of economics is about ranging these, allowing for the volatility of price, supply and demand. For instance, we don't even have to measure prices in terms of fiat currency. I can measure the price of a car in terms of oil stocks. So you have a huge problem as a central planner. Are you going to find an equilibrium price on the chocolate bar just in terms of the dollar you're using? Because that will be pointless. People are not stupid. They will just start measuring it in other terms. They will measure it next to the beef jerky. They will measure it next to the slushies. And they will find their own value for the chocolate bar, whether you hide it behind an equilibrium price or not. And this is what the central planner is just absolutely uneducated about.
The issue is that we live in a system where having set prices, they're not great. I don't agree with set prices at all because I don't agree with the capital system as a whole, but set prices are pragmatic. And the thing is, liberal democracy as it stands right now, which operates in Canada and the United States and most of the Western world, is a pragmatic based system. And so it is pragmatic for us to have regulations.
The irony here is that the pragmatism comes to the consumer. And as a regulator, you don't want all pragmatics to be only to the consumer, especially ironically when you're pushing a non-consumerist agenda. You would want to prop up productivity, right? You'd want to incentivize productivity, and that's the very thing you're missing. We're not always pragmatizing the consumer end of things. You want people to be productive and accomplish things in this society.
I'm also saying the reason the candy bar maybe has somewhat of a set price, or like certain things have set prices because of taxes and all that, is because you are paying you are also paying taxes to the government as to ensure that that candy bar was safely inspected and etc. You're paying in all of those extra fees and all those extra things, like, and also I need to make a profit as the business, so I may add in a little bit there too, because I'm paying all of these other fees to my suppliers. So I need to make money. So after I'm done with selling you all of these things, you're paying $12.69 for a candy bar, which is expensive maybe, but I'm giving some of that money to the supplier, but I want to take some of it for me. So I'm losing money here. So this is why I am, and it's a contradiction, because it becomes this hodgepodge of fees and what is not fees, and it's a dangerous slippery slope, but it maintains a hegemony that can sustain itself long term, rather than, if there isn't a set price or set rules, we're just in complete like anarchy, in the sense that I could sell you a chocolate bar for $1,000 if I wanted to, and if you have $1,000, you're gonna pay $1,000 for my chocolate bar.
So I don't see what's wrong with that. I think you just proved my very point.
Because
the price.
It creates a structural instability, because the market will cascade fall into itself, because the market no longer has a stable metric to govern itself, and markets cannot govern themselves. People govern markets.
How do you hear me? Because I might have bad internet. Yeah. Can you hear me better now? I have kind of bad service, so hopefully you can hear me. I think that the volatility and the instability is ultimately a good thing. But I kind of want to go back to what you said home, is that the price is not realized until a contract is actually signed or exchanged. So if I'm a store owner and I put a chocolate bar at $1,000 and no one buys it, then the price of the chocolate bar is not $1,000. The price is not actually like recorded in the books. It's not a realized price, right? And so, again, this is a misunderstanding, I think, of basic price action. You cannot remove the consenting party from the contract. There's a whole nother party consenting, and if someone truly does have the residual income to spend on the golden chocolate bar, $1,000, I do not see the problem with that.
I mean, I see the problem in that, like, because let's say this golden chocolate bar, like in this scenario, what if the golden chocolate bar is $1,000? Is, you know, they say it's $1,000, it's worth $1,000, but when I eat it, I get sick because it wasn't handled properly when it was made. Who do I go? Can I go back to the guy and say I want my money back, did I just get conned because this person who was supposedly acting good faith sold me a $1,000 golden candy bar that sent me to the hospital?
For the most part, I would say buyer beware, right? But that's not to say there shouldn't. Again, I don't sympathize with some like food regulations and such, but ultimately, until a program does step in and try to regulate their way through these problems, yeah, it is up to the individual to manage their own risk. If you're on the side of the road over, like, let's say you have an allergy that you're not aware of, and you just unalive because you ate something you shouldn't have. Like, yeah, there's no one really who's responsible for that. Like, it sucks.
Well,
it's the harsh reality.
You're basically supporting a society where we're going to have unalived people because products.
No.
It's going to happen. There's going to be a lot more.
I get that, but I feel like we're adding a caveat to this that we don't necessarily need to be adding. Like the price of like the candy bar in itself has insurance pretty much built into it. Like it's accounted for within the price that you're looking at.
Yes, through the production. But if we were considering just like a homemade brownie on the side of the square.
But in
It's not going to be able to give you any kind of coverage for like whatever they're selling you on that point. But like,
this was a good conversation, but I'm being summoned to another live, so I will talk to you all later.
Aspen, thank you so much for the conversation, man. It's actually been a pleasure. You are welcome anytime, and I'd love to talk to you again.
Yeah, no, I just want to let you all know that I have read Rand and studied these things. I'm not opposed to studying these things, so when you debate other communist or socialist minded people, unfortunately not all of them are as smart as me. It's a sad state of affairs, but you have.
Oh, similar to my end, bro. Similar to my end. This is why I love talking, finding middle ground with the opposition. Like, my end is equally as full of ideologues and echo chambers.
Yes, but I'll talk to you all later.
Much love. I'm always stoked to talk to you, Darragon, because I think you have a very good sense of money, or at least would you call yourself a free market thinker, or like, I don't know, where do you put yourself on the spectrum of limiting labels?
I don't know. I just work hard and I try to get the things that make me happy. I think materialistic things are kind of dumb, but they're also kind of cool. We should be able to enjoy things while we're here.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But not be completely grounded in the idea of like these are the things that matter.
Yeah, but like almost like as a testament to our ancestors. Like if you look back 150 years, like you can't help but appreciate the abundance we're surrounded by. Why not go have a sushi roll? Why not drink a rare cider once in a while? You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the privileges that our ancestors allowed us, and to disqualify them and to blame, something like the harshness of life on these these gifts, it misses the point. There are little, there's a lot to say about the little joys in life, right?
Right on.
To a degree, it's almost sad that someone can appreciate like a new car, or like a high-paying job because they think that this is somehow immoral. You know, I see that a lot, honestly. I see my friends and my peers almost not think that they're worthy of their own wealth in a way. You know, I'm not saying they're all wealthy. I'm just saying whatever advantages or opportunities they are given, often they neglect them because it's almost as if their psychology prevents them from truly like embracing it.
Yeah, I get that. I think there's this really cool idea. I mean, I'm not really even sure how to say it, but like the idea of like somebody being like a theist who holds to that all of the worldly things don't matter, and the things that come after this are the things that matter. It's like, yeah, that's cool to have that idea and to feel that way, but I feel like you're losing sight of what's in front of you right now. And anyone who thinks like that, you know, this is all we get, and that everything here is what needs to matter. Like it's this idea of like a hyper focus that I think it's a problem. I think balance is really important. I'm not saying I got the balance right, you know, but I think it's important to be able to look at the things that you have and the things you get to do here. And, you know, if there's something after this, we'll be able to, like, you know, have no nostalgic feelings about the shit that we did here, hopefully. And if not, then, hey, hopefully we did the best we could, you know? I don't know.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I like Jordan Peterson's idea of balance. Talks about how if you're running, you're falling. Like there's an element of balance which is related to like falling forward.
Yeah.
Embracing the fall. Something like that has to do with actually balancing. People think balance is some sort of like sedentary equilibrium, but perhaps maybe it's more of like a back and forth, you know?
Yeah, I think balance is a lot of things. It's cool stuff.
Man, my phone has been like the screen when I touch it, it'll just do random ass shit, and I'm pretty sure I just blocked someone in the chat accidentally. I have to go and look at my block people. If I blocked you, I'm sorry.
It was not me. I could still put comments in, so
I thought it was gonna be you for a second.
that's funny.
Are you at work right now? What are you saying?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna be getting out in about like 13 minutes.
You're starting in 13 minutes?
No, I'm getting out.
Oh, you're done. I was gonna say that's crazy. You're working into the evening, but yeah, your day's coming to an end too.
Well, no. My work day's coming to an end. The rest of my day is actually.
Course. The dad obligations just begin.
Not just that. It's just everything else too, you know. Yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna mute up for a minute because I gotta do some cleaning and taking care of a couple things.
Sure, dude. Much love. I'll see you around there, guys. It's a pleasure to talk to you, man. I'm all alone. If someone else wants to come up and carry on the conversation, I would be delighted. If not, I'm going to put some music on and wait. We don't have to talk about economics, although today's been awesome because it has been geared kind of through the lens of economics, today's conversations, and I think that... Whoa! Okay, chill, but chill, bro. Okay, chill. If that's what you need to call the police, bro. You don't want to be, yo, listen to me. You don't want to get caught with assault charges and shit, bro. Calm yourself. You don't want to get caught with assault charges and shit, hitting people in the street, dude. Just chill.
Yeah, you tell
Relax.
him.
Relax,
putting
dude.
things in the car for
Back up
you.
from him, man. Back up. I don't know what happened. I'm just a bystander. I'm just chill. I'm just telling you. You need to fucking relax. You need to fucking relax, bro. I'm not doing anything. Relax.
You're not
Call them.
protected.
Call them. Call the police. I just saw you punch her, bro. Call the cops. Call the cops. I'm just not letting you touch
Hey,
it.
give me the stuff
Call
back.
the cops, bro.
Give me the stuff
I didn't
back.
do anything. I put things in
Dude,
there.
relax.
I put things in your car. I
Relax.
didn't take things out.
Relax, bro. Relax.
No.
Hey, Logic,
police.
maybe turn on your
Okay,
Logic.
dude.
Maybe turn on your
Call the
camera.
police.
Maybe
Yeah, you
turn
shut
on your
the
camera and
fuck up.
record what's
Dude,
going
you're gonna
on.
get knocked the fuck out, bro.
Yeah?
You do not want to
Let's
fuck
do
with
it.
me. You do not want to fuck with me, bro. Just call the police, bro. Call the police, bro.
Hey, Logic,
Yo,
turn
you
on
guys
your
gotta see
camera and
this.
record what's going on.
I am
Yeah, turn
going
on your
to,
camera,
but
dude.
I'm too fucked up to fucking, like I'm in this right now and then my screen's fucking up. I can't turn it on.
Fuck off. Take it. Okay, I'm not
I am
going to
trying.
call the cops.
Yeah, call the cops, bro. You just punched her in the
Take your
face,
fucking
bro.
coat.
Call the cops.
I don't want your fucking coat.
I don't know why you're so fucking mad at me, bro. I'm just a random person, dude. Just get out of my face, dude.
Come
Out of
on.
my face,
Get
bro.
the fuck
my
out.
brother's car. Okay, I'm sorry.
How the fuck do
I
I
didn't
turn
mean
on
to.
this fucking camera?
I honestly did not mean
There we go.
to.
Now.
Yes, no, we want you to call the police, sir. You're the one accusing her. Call the police. You should call the police. I'm here to witness whatever happened. But you just punched her in the face, bro. And you know that's wrong, bro.
Fucking cat. You cunt.
What were you doing? Were you trying to break in his car?
I was actually playing with my brother's car. Honestly, thought it was.
Yeah, you should be filming. Film. Seriously, you should film. Film. You should film. Why are you so aggressive, bro? I'm telling you to film. I'm saying you should film.
Take your coat, you cunt. Oh, that's my coat.
She tried to give it back to you. You're just so fucking crazy
That's my
that.
fucking coat.
Yeah, bro. You're so emotional right now that you can't even distill reality.
Take your fucking hat, you cunt.
You need to. Are you on drugs or some shit, bro? I have your license plate and everything, bro, and I watched you punch her in the face. You need to. I will, bro. You need to relax,
Hey,
dude.
this is not my coat.
Dude.
Hey,
Don't.
come back with your coat.
God. Welcome to Vancouver.
You want to call the cops?
No,
I'm right
you
here.
should call the police. You should call the police. Don't fucking come up to
Do
me,
you
bro.
want to call the cops?
I'm saying you should. If you're upset,
She's
you should
gone.
call them. Yeah, but you're obviously the crazy one. So, yes, I have your license plate, and I will be calling the cops later. You fucking crazy psychopath. Fuck, man. Literally walked as I'm sitting in the car. This lady was like standing next to his car.
Hey,
Just walks up to her and punches her in the
Logic,
face.
watch
Punches her
out
into
that he
something.
doesn't.
Oh, I will.
Watch out that he doesn't try to run you over or anything.
I know. Got you. Welcome to the streets, though. Precept Mars is in there. Yes. This is a crazy live. Is this who? Which precept is it? Is this a real precept Mars?
Bro, you did not do a good job of de-escalating that.
What do you mean, precept? That is hilarious. I'm getting heat as I'm going through this right now. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Though.
but you gotta de-escalate because people are crazy. Like, you gotta
I
be
thought
like,
I did a decent job.
I don't know,
What would
man.
you?
You
All
kinda
right,
like,
give me the feedback.
I think you started out good, but towards the end you kind of were like threatening him and stuff, and that could have been bad.
Okay, that's kind of true, but he was walking up on me, bro. I did not want that guy to fucking come here.
Yeah, but the best way to go is like straight de-escalation. So like humility, forgiveness. Like, I don't know. That's what I think. Cause like,
Are you trolling me right now?
no, I watched all these videos of like random attacks that happen in public that get filmed. Like this YouTube channel called Active Self Protection. And he
You thought I
stresses like
did,
de-escalation.
but Prisa, you thought I did it. You thought I escalated that situation, dog. dog.
I thought you were trying to de-escalate, but it's just like,
Well, he was getting in my face, bro. He was, and I was backing up repetitively. My car's also right here. I was backing
yeah,
up repetitively, and yeah, I needed to threaten him, like, yo, don't get in my
I don't
face
know.
again, because it is to the point where, like, if he does step up on me, I will just knock him out. It's not a de-escalation thing. It's a self-defense thing, right? Like, if I'm actually just trying to get out of his way and he's like literally minimally attacking me, then I will take the first punch and I'll just lay him out.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea.
Well,
I
I've
think
dealt with these situations in the past before, and like if someone is attacking you, there's only so much de-escalation you can do before you do have to get into self-defense, bro. I've been in the streets way too long to not have my wits about me, and I would not be using my fists, right? He doesn't understand that I'm in these streets every day, bro. He'd be laid out on the ground, and I would call the police.
what if he has a weapon or something?
I
Yeah,
have one. I have one. He would be laid out before he was. I could tell that he didn't have his wits about. If it was a situation where I felt like there have been other situations where I've just run away. If I feel like I've had knives pulled on me. One time I was in a corner and I couldn't get out of it, and the guy pulled a knife on me. That one was bad. But one time a guy pulled like a shank. It was like a screwdriver on me, and I just ran away because I'm not gonna like. I'm not about. I could tell he was totally irate. He had that out already, and I'm not about to do anything. In this situation, when I was an obvious bystander, I actually appreciate you guys talking me through this though, because I am pretty like I'm not worked up. I was calm, but like yeah, I'm sure I didn't know. I felt like threatening him there made him sort of like realize that maybe he did need to calm down, but perhaps that because he did kind of de-escalate after I threatened him, I guess. But maybe I'm wrong.
it ultimately worked out. I don't know.
Yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. I'm glad you guys are.
A risky move.
Yeah, that was fucked. Stoked you guys
It's
are here
like
for that.
people don't realize how lethal a knife is. Like one stab in the right spot, and you're like done.
Oh yeah, dude. Bart, did you catch that? 5G, did you catch that?
I did. I
Yo,
watched
what's
all
up,
that.
guys?
And so,
Catch what?
Dude, I'm gonna let 5G explain it. If you saw it, explain it.
yeah, so pretty much, you saw that guy assault the girl while she was over by his car, and they got in a big argument, and you observed most of it, and you were telling him that, that basically you had his personal information, or you had the information necessary to identify him, that you witnessed him assault the woman, and he went back and forth, yelling at both of you, acting like he was gonna attack, and then he eventually left. That's sort of a summary, I guess.
Yeah, Bart, you didn't catch any of that?
I caught the tail end. So there was, let me recapitulate. So there was a guy that seemed to be manhandling or otherwise assaulting somebody else, in this case, a woman. You saw that, you approached them and said, like, look, stop doing that. I have your personal information. I'm going to report you. He proceeded to approach you in a threatening or menacing manner. And you indicated that if he continues to do so, you would defend yourself, something like that?
Dude, yeah. Fuck, man. Yeah, I can't believe it was all caught on live, too.
Bart, you're such a lawyer, dude. You're such a lawyer.
I pulled up.
I like that.
I pulled up and parked my car, and I sat here for a few minutes on live. And then, as zombies in this city do, a lady that was obviously on drugs kind of moseyed beside his car and was slouched over. She didn't open his car or anything. She was just like leaning against it, kind of. He walked up, immediately started punching her in the face and in the stomach, probably 3 or 4 punches total, and was like totally irate and saying she stole from my car or something, like accusing her of breaking in and stealing. She obviously hadn't, though. She had a huge bag of nonsense in it. And then he started like going through a bunch of different delusions, one of them being trying to coordinate what was in the bag of his stolen stuff and what wasn't. In the end, nothing had been stolen, and he was just like, yeah, completely aggressive. And every time he stepped up to me, I just kept saying, like, call the police, if you need to call the police, call the police. And then he'd look at me like he was going to kill me. He was like looking at me in the eyes, like, say that again, kind of thing. And I kept reassuring him, like, I'm trying to say, bro, if something went wrong, you should call the police. And then a couple times he got really close to me, even though I was backing up at a fairly good pace, literally almost about to run away, other than the fact my car is parked right here. And I told him, if you get close, man, I'm going to knock you out. You don't want to fuck with me. Like, if something's going wrong, call the police. Do not fuck with me. I'm a bystander, bro. Like, why are you getting in my face? Why are you aggressive? And yeah, that was insane. I'm so glad that was sick, though. Fuck me, bro. This is the city, dude. Every day. Fuck.
Shit. Well, Logic, I commend you
so
for
aggressive with
stepping
that
up.
dude, bro.
Go ahead, 5G.
Hey, what up?
I
Hey,
would have
you did
immediately
fine,
escalated
Logic.
with that dude.
By my lights, you did fine.
Yeah, Logic, you generally have the right, obviously, as you well know, for defending yourself, defense of property, defense of others. As long as it's a proportional response, then you're totally in the clear. Obviously, whether you choose to engage or not is up to you. And again, I commend you for doing so, given that you saw somebody was being assaulted and without justification for that occurring. So yeah, how did it resolve? Did he just essentially start walking back in his car?
Yeah, I filmed the tail end of it because I was like in it, so I couldn't turn this fucking app. Hey, like getting your camera back on is a bit of a thing, and I wasn't focused enough on the app. I did finally get it on when he was basically get back in his car, got his license plate, and then he drove off. I usually reserve the threats. Usually, I'm the type of person that's not going to tell you if I am gonna snap because I'm gonna take the most advantages I can. Usually, I'll be calm right up until the last second. But with him, I felt like a threat would actually de-escalate. It's funny that Precept came on right away. That was hilarious too, like critiquing me. That was awesome though, Precept. Thanks actually for coming up. You and Daragon kind of made me feel like I wasn't by myself, weirdly enough, in this virtual world. But I do think that the threat ultimately did kind of de-escalate it. Like I looked him in his eye and told him, "Don't come close to me," and like that. After that, he didn't really.
I've done that. It totally works.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm an NYC street vendor. I'm in situations like that like 3 or 4 times a week when I'm out a lot, like I'm in situations like that a lot. And
this one was rare because there was a guy assaulting a girl. That's rare, Paichi, hey? Like that, like right out in daylight, punching her in the face. Her in the face. That was fucking rare. I've never
that's
seen that.
somewhat rare even in the situations that I'm in, but I still see shit like that. But like sometimes I found that bravado at a range, right? You don't want to compromise your range, which you weren't. You were staying pretty good range. But I find that like you need bravado at a range sometimes, sometimes bravado is necessary. You have to implement it. No one wants to go that route. No one wants to be like puffing their chest and like inciting something, but sometimes it's what's necessary. I've been in situations.
I just go with the incitement. I'm just like walking around and I'm just telling anybody to step up.
Right?
Step up, right?
yeah, me too. Yeah.
I was in a situation a couple of years ago when I was vending where I won't get too detailed, but let's just say there were things drawn and I just straight up like went full bravado mode, and I was like, like calling them out and just MFing every single person that came in my way. And it like, I don't know that it would have worked in a private setting. Like I was in a public setting and there were enough people around, but in a public setting, it worked. Like 5G was saying, now, like, I think like in like when you're in a situation where you're obfuscated by darkness or you're obfuscated by, there's not a lot of people around, things like that. Everything's obscured. I don't always recommend bravado. I recommend just getting the F out of there, but in well-lit areas and everything like that, like, I think bravado works sometimes.
Yeah, I can definitely, kind of, if you puff your chest up, most people I'd say, want to avoid confrontation or especially physical confrontation. So you should be able to like read context clues and see if that's like something that's going to more likely de-escalate the situation or unfortunately further, right?
Okay, this was a rare one too because this was a car owner. Typically, you see street urchins fighting amongst each other. You don't see a car owner assaulting someone on the street. It's right there next to his vehicle. Like, well, I'm in them, so I'm a degenerate. I don't know. I can speak for ourselves, but I think that
I like it. I like the term.
To a degree, I think that he was actually convinced she was breaking in, that he had right to just like punch her in the face. What I was trying to get him aware of is like, bro, you don't want, the first thing I said is, bro, you do not want to catch an assault charge. If you call the police right now, say this lady tried to break in your car and then you punched her in the face, you're going to catch an assault charge, bro. The vehicle matters way less than you punching some random, addict in the face. Sincerely, like, you need to calm down, call the police, right? Because like, you're going to catch an assault charge. He was so irate that he thought it was excusable, right? And that's like an interesting thing with the law. It's like, you're not just in the right to assault people, just even if there is a crime being done, you need to calm yourself down. You're now vulnerable. You're now vulnerable to the law, even though you're the victim. It's very interesting.
100%, yeah, and that happens a lot actually, and especially when I've dealt with police reports and police interactions with clients. The police don't know the full story. Whoever like calls 911 first gets the jump, right? And they could say a bunch of things. Like, it's obviously they're going to paint themselves out, the best light possible if they're the one calling, generally speaking, right? So the police very well, knowing this, and you're in that situation, you could expose yourself to like a lot more like risk, including the police violating your rights, because they're going to come and they're going to operate based off like a skewed report. Now, I'm not saying that this guy was in the right by any stretch of the imagination, and it sounds like he was definitely in the wrong. But it just goes to show that, like, he should definitely expect that even if he believed he was in the right, that doing that kind of thing, unless there's like an emergency or some overriding consideration, is going to be disfavored by the police, and he's going to be treated as the suspect and potentially arrested given the situation.
So crazy. That's actually so crazy. Oh man, like, people are just dumb. Like, he's just kind of an older middle-aged dude that's just that's the kind of thing that's like a little bit why I preach about rationality so much, because we often think that it's in these times of stoic arguments that rationality applies, and it's these times of irate emotionality where we think we know she broke into my car, right? You think you know the truth, and until you can really step back and view it from a bigger lens, right? Applying rationality, like, you are caught up in almost like a delusion, a hallucination. It's not even about substance abuse, or it's literally like a pure emotional like psychosis. It's amazing to observe it in all walks of society, all classes, whether you're educated or not, everyone struggles with this.
And the main reason I really came up is to report that this is like day 265 of me trying to be the only mod in Logic's live, so I can ban all of Amdir's troll accounts and mod accounts and off accounts. Just kidding.
No way. Is he on a troll account in my chat?
No. I don't think so. I know you mentioned that like you had banned him and then you allowed him to go on Julian's account to come on your live once or twice. I don't know what's the situation.
And I did unblock him now. Yeah, and I unblocked him. I mean, it was during a debate that I felt like he came in and participated in good faith. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt. We've only had really 2 interactions, one bad and one good. So I'll give him the chalk up to that. But my radar is definitely up.
Yeah, as would mine be. You got to be careful with some of these characters around here.
You know what it is, bro? You know what it is? And I've, as I'm turning 32, I love my youthful side of me. But a lot of it is a bit of like adolescence. It's a little bit, they're young. Like, a lot of that group they're young, man. Age gives a lot of, it settles you down a lot. And when I was my mid-20s, I was very similarly charged. I was a bit more combative, and I was, seeking W's, thought I was right, those kinds of things. It takes a bit more maturity to bridge beyond that. But that's the thing, man, is I give everyone their grace in that sense. Like, everyone's on their own path. They'll get to it in their own time. And so, I love engaging with exuberant youth. It's all good, but you got to remember, they're kids. Like, when I talk to Jambar, I'm like, dude, he's a kid. He's like a kid, bro. Like, or like if I talk to Lucario, like, I need to chill. Like, he's a kid,
Yeah, most of these folks, at least to my understanding, like Jambar, Lucario, I think they're 18 to 19. I think the other dude, Valid Inference, is probably also 18 to 19. These are all like part of this same like Philbro crew. Amdir, I think, is maybe a little bit older. I think he's like maybe 23, 24. I'm not sure exactly. J Mike
That's
is
still
obviously.
that's still so young, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, J Mike I think is a little bit on the older side. I think he's like probably 32. He's probably around your age, honestly. And even that's not that old. Like I'm in my 30s too. Like I'm like slightly a few years older than you. I think Pi's probably in his 30s or 40s, somewhere around there. But yeah, like I think a lot of these folks just they have this opportunity to go on social media. They're seeking this like quick these wins, this validation, and they've like kind of developed a style where it's not that much about the that much about like having an exchange of substance, but more about just like kind of showing themselves up and like denigrating anybody who doesn't comport with their views, which again, it's just like a bad faith approach to begin with.
It reminds me of kind of like when I was like it's like when I was like in the trenches in art school, and you get really good at like observational drawing or something. So then your next thing is like to like flex that or something, in every case. But really, like the trained people can all do that. Like we can all do it to some degree. Some people are better than others or whatever. But then, once you
example,
it's like once you develop that skills, it's no longer like a race to flex that on every turn. You're learning.
You almost cringe at the overuse. You don't want to saturate your one.
It's like,
it's so good, Paichi.
And what's funny is people think when you don't flex it, you don't have it. That's hilarious to me. Like they think
my metaphor for this is the skate park. Like a kid who learns a trick, he'll just do that same trick over and over and over and over and over. Everything he does, it's like the pro has he saves it for a very special spot usage. You're not just overusing all your tricks, unloading the bag. You don't want to unload your whole bag of tricks all in one spot, right? You gotta find the perfect spot to utilize your bag of tricks. And like, that takes a style and a development that it's an art of an artist. It takes time to get there.
Yeah. And like, I mean, like I said, the funniest thing to me is like when people assume that because you aren't showcasing something that you don't have that in your bag. And like the funniest thing is when people do that with popularizers. Like people will be like, oh, like these like people that are like, I don't know, like a smaller level scientist or philosopher or something. And then there'll be like a popularizer that is speaking a little bit more like in natural language or something like that. And then these people that are just now learning all the terms, they think the popularizers don't know this shit. I'm like, they fucking know it. Like they know this shit. Like they're just not like flexing it. Like you listen to someone like Graham Oppie, he's not using jargon at every turn. He knows the jargon.
Oh yeah, for sure. And
he's just not using it all the time.
Yeah, and that's like a key consideration too, because you've got a lot of people have this view, or maybe they haven't developed the counter view at the least, where if somebody approaches them and like demands a certain sort of like engagement or challenge, like you're running away if you don't like give in exactly to what they're demanding. Like, who the hell are these people? Like, they're not entitled to anything. If you don't want to engage somebody, at least not on their demand or on their whim, like that should be the controlling metric here. So it's very important to be able to like to set that rule down and not give in to these sorts of like, implicit entitlements, right? Because we see that a lot on social media, especially TikTok, and like less so, or actually probably more so on Discord, except I'm not on Discord that much. So it's like somebody who just like comes in and like demands a certain sort of engagement. It's like, bro, like first of all, you're not entitled to like have me engage you on your terms and on like your subject. It's like, fuck out of here.
Oh, totally. No, totally. Yeah, it's like an artist also who is technically good but then abandons the technique is always going to be a better artist than one who just doesn't understand the technique. So there is this element of like, as you're flexing, you have to that's almost you. One term is virtue signaling, but another term is like you're demonstrating your ignorance. Like a true artist understands that each mark on the page is a sign of their weakness, not a sign of their strengths, kind of, in a way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, or just knowing when to implement it and when not to, and it's more about
Yes.
conveying whatever you want to convey versus just exhausting the potential.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it's the juvenile aspect of argumentation is when I'm experimenting with I don't know, surrealism, and someone comes in and obsesses about the 3-point perspective in my painting. It's like, you're not even looking at what I'm trying to achieve here. You're just flexing your abilities over and over again. And you're also claiming that your realism is somehow more artistic than my surrealism, which we're not even now having the same conversation in art.
But no, in
By the way,
respect.
Logic.
Oh, sorry,
Thank
you
you
go,
for
Mark.
having me on. No, that's okay. I got to drop down. But thank you for having me on. Appreciate you guys. Good talk.
Dude, thank you for the feedback on the street urchins. Gang, Bart. Talk to you soon,
No,
buddy.
yeah, Logic. If you want to talk more about that, or if anything comes of it, like feel free to DM me, or we can talk more on another live. It's all good.
Okay. Have a good day, brother.
You did fine, man. He was a little erratic. It's like nothing's
Thanks, bro.
perfect.
Oh no, I mean, you and I actually, I get the sense have probably the most interactions like that on a daily basis after I've heard you talk about what you do and how you're a street vendor and such. Like, you know how it is, bro. Like,
Yeah.
the more interactions you get into, you stay fairly calm because you are fairly used to it. It's almost like a sympathy I have for the situation. I want to calm both parties down. I truly do want to de-escalate. I'm not trying to start a fight or anything.
Yeah, I stay calm like most of the time. And sometimes I stay calm in the even worse situations where people have, I've been in like subway situations where like I was in this one situation where a guy was like on me and literally like had his hand, like, I don't know if you're there. I'm talking to nobody.
Oh no, sir, you're here.
Oh, yeah.
I
No,
left
that's
that for a
good.
second. I can hear you.
No, I was in a situation one time where a dude had his hand on my inner thigh, and I could have snapped, and I chose at that particular moment to go the route of just literally letting him even like have his hands on me. I just let him do it because I knew that day that if I snapped, I was going to snap like really, really, really bad. I just could sense it in myself, And
you knew the line was close. You were like, you were sensing that if this progresses literally any past this point, it is going to get bad. You were at that point. Basically.
And I kept I let him go further than I probably should have let him, but that particular day I just knew that like if I just kept like control of the situation to like what he was doing. Obviously, if he had like slid his hand like past my thigh into like something else, then I might have. Yeah, but like I just knew that day I had a bit of anger in me, and I was like, man, if I snap, I'm gonna like really, really snap, and I don't want to do that. And so I just like let him do that, and then I kind of like shouldered him a little bit, like just to like show that I was like still like kind of like there, and then he eventually like just like let go and then got up, and then I got off at the next stop. It wasn't even my stop, but I was like, if I don't get off now, I'm gonna like flip out. So I have days like that where I'm like really sort of like let it I just like let it go down. I let it transgress or whatever. And then I have other days where I have to show a little bravado.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was thinking there, when you are a victim, it always goes past the point that you would ideally let it get to. That's one of the parts about being violated that sucks. It's like in the past tense, you kind of got to grieve with this situation of the fact that like it did go past where you kind of wanted it to go. And like, there's no easy real solution to that. There's not like a strategy where you can just say, here's the line and I'm not going to let it cross. Because when these situations progress, it's sort of a natural, it's weird how they progress, isn't it? It's like you can see it unfolding, but it's like a snake kind of slowly wrapping around you. There's not really an escape as it's going on. Like, I don't know, it's hard. And then but hopefully you can protect past any real trauma. But I mean, ultimately being a victim is that whole experience of being like not it being pushed past the point that you didn't want it to go. It's really unsettling. It's really disturbing.
The one thing that has like worked for me, and I don't know if it would work for everyone, but for me, unless there's another victim that I have to like get in the way of and like stop something from happening. But if it's like just like the person's like aggressing or whatever, or a skirmish happens and then it breaks up and they're still kind of like yelling at me or something, the one thing I like I said is like I'll express bravado like vocally, but I almost never, like, I keep my range. So like I'll just stand in the exact spot, and if they're barking, they're barking. Occasionally I'll make like a gesture like to welcome them like over, but I don't move. I just stand strong and I stay in the exact spot. I don't move away and I don't move towards. I just like I stay in my exact spot, and then I'll like assert myself from there and just say like, hey, like you're welcome to come over if you want to.
This might sound like a bit of a weird input on that, but I think what matters a lot is sort of like your appearance as well. Like, I don't really know what you look like, but I appear basically like a person who lives, like, I often get mistaken for a homeless person. I appear as though
I do too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, like when you're unassuming, these situations often prevail differently than when you look like how I look. Like they seem to escalate quicker or not at all because they're standoffish and they don't want to be anywhere near me, or they're ready to do something because they've assessed that like I might be a minimal threat or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And so like it's weird. Like I've had like one time I had a guy come up to me and like I have skaters come up to me all the time and tell me I can't BMX at the park. It's like a common tension between skaters and bikers. So I'm used to dealing with it and kind of like taking the hit on the chin. But one time I had a guy come over and immediately start threatening me with the skateboard like in hand at my head, and within like 2 words exchanged, he was literally swinging the thing. And I was like, it was so close that the interaction initially happened with that I was like immediately running away from him. Like I was like sprinting away to try to get away as he chased me around with his skateboard. And it was like to the point, well, it was crazy because I was there by myself and there's like a couple other people, but they were not going to do anything about it. It's to the point where I got like high ground and then just sort of like took one of the hits with the skateboard to get close to him and like took him down. We had a scramble, which is like not ideal, but I ran away for so long. At a certain point, all my stuff's there. I can't leave my bag and everything. I'm now across the skate park. I had to engage with him basically. And yeah, and it was like the whole time I'm like, does this guy have a knife on him? What's going to happen? And he submitted pretty much right away. It was like classic, like immediately saying he's sorry. Oh, sorry, man. Okay, like, okay, I quit. Like as soon as we got onto the ground, I was choking him out. And then, yeah, stands up and apologizes and shit. And I have this huge bruise on my fucking leg. And it's just like, man, if you would have, like, if I was anyone else, you would have hit me in the head and knocked me out. Like, literally, bro, I had to engage with you for 10 minutes and now you're apologizing to me? Like, dude. And like, that's the kind of total irrationality that even in that day I was not ready for. I was expecting just a back and forth. Maybe he's going to give me some attitude and I would give him some. Dude, it escalated so fast. And I've had 1,000 of these interactions, but that one was just absolutely irate. And like,
when you're out on the streets. What's that?
You just have to be ready for anything. It's crazy. Like, you really do.
Yeah, when you're out like on the streets, which it sounds like you are, like in whatever capacity. Just stuff like that just happens. Like, and it's like you don't even like I don't even ever. I mean, like I'm really never in situations where I start anything. I'm not a starter. But I'm very defensive. I tend to be very defensive. So, and I know that about myself, so I have to like know when to be defensive and when not to.
I'm the exact same. Like I will never start anything, but I'm not good with authority. Like someone tell me to do something.
Neither am I. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But I would never start anything because I know how serious it escalates, and I've been around a lot of violence, and I don't want it to escalate. I'm scared of that stuff, man. Like that's what I'm the de-escalator for sure. Like I'm out.
I'm in a lot of situations too where like for whatever reason it's followed me around my whole life, even though I'm like have like a squeaky clean record. I get accosted by like police a lot. And like just like the last time, well, not the last time, the time before that. That's how often it happens. Not too terribly long ago. Like was just like walking from one place to another in the daylight, and like just was going to a show, and like from one park to another, and you know like had like a police SUV vehicle like in Manhattan like cut me off on the sidewalk, start yelling towards me, and I didn't even think anything of it. I thought they were just like yelling at someone else, and they were like, "Yo, stop," or whatever, and yeah, that like the one vehicle like pulled off on the sidewalk, kind of cut me off, and then another one came in, and then before I knew it, there were like 6 cops like up on me, telling me that like I looked like someone they were searching for. Like I just have shit like that happen to me. Like I have,
I've had similar, but not the paddy wagon with 6 cops. That sounds pretty. See, that's traumatic, bro. That sucks to have to explain yourself and see your evening involved. Like you see your life flash before your eyes in those instances. You got out of it cool though, right? They looked your ID up.
It was. They showed the like person they were looking for, and I looked right at it. Because first they were like, oh, that, you know, like, oh, this is a person looks like you or whatever. And so then I was like, cool, let's see it. And they pull it out. And then I put my head like right next to it as they were holding like the image. And I was like, that's clearly not me. And I looked at all of them and I was like, does this look like me? I was like, this is clearly not me. And then they were like, you know, why are you worked up? I'm like, well, because you cut me off like on the street in broad daylight. I'm just going to a concert, like, you know, like. But I've had shit like that happen, even when I like didn't live in urban areas. Like when I was younger, and we would go into urban areas, I would have like incidents like that, just like for whatever reason. I don't know why. I just like. There's something about me that lures them in. I don't know what it is. I've never been able to quite figure it out. Like,
well, in my case, I think I know what it is. I'm drawn to it. I'm drawn to the streets. I love the streets. I do. I love the city. I love the streets. I love being in the streets. It's my aesthetic. Like I could move back to the country. I grew up on the farm, but as soon as I got in the city, like I just love it. I love the city so much. It becomes it's got its juxtaposition of beauty, and with that comes a lot of the terror, you know, but that's just part. It's like it's part of it that you kind of have to appreciate both to really like be in it.
No, I just meant I don't know why like the cops like in particular like kind of gravitate towards me. Like I've had a lot of people say it. They're like, man, like you just have like terrible luck with like for someone so squeaky clean. Because I'm squeaky clean. Like I'm like completely sober. I'm like. I don't have like a record or anything. Like I'm squeaky clean. I'm a nerd.
You sound exactly like me. Like I have daily engagements with cops, but I have the cleanest record, and I get like I'm able to at least. That's the emotional part too. Like I know in those situations, your emotions are more important than anything. They are judging you on your ability to comprehend and comply.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like if you get emotional at all for someone like you and I who's anti-authoritarian, like bro, I will fight all 6 of those cops and end up in handcuffs and in a prison. Like I will, right? You have to control that. Like with our personality types, like it's actually a skill set. It's actually a skill set because all my friends struggle with that and know that it's a skill to kind of learn how to delegate. Like it really is, especially under pressure. It means nothing in an academic setting. It means nothing compared to the real world of like actually having shit thrown at you when tensions are high, right? That's when it really actually matters. 6 cops are around you and misaccusing you. It's like your night now depends on how rational you remain. It's crazy that the conversation just went off on that tangent because of the street epistemology that I dealt with there. But it also is crazy that I felt a sense of like people with me on this on this live, even though I was by myself. Like that's super new age, trippy. What are you saying today, Pai Chi? What are you getting up to?
Finishing up some pieces for an upcoming show. Trying to stay
Sick.
productive.
Sick. It's raining where I'm at today, so I'm doing some work in my vehicle. Usually I'm out on my bike, but today I pulled up in the vehicle. I actually hate working in a vehicle. I fucking hate it. I hate driving, especially in the city. Like on an open road, driving is amazing, but finding parking and all that and paying for gas and sitting bumper to bumper to pay for gas, so it's like mind numbing.
Yeah. Are you still doing like running across like the border for things?
You heard that one too? No, I'm
Yeah, I
never
heard
doing
you
that
talking about
again,
it.
bro. I'm never doing that again, bro.
Oh, that was just like a one-time thing.
I'm just an idiot, dude. I'm just an idiot. Well, I'm making it a one-time thing. Like, the full story is that I've acquired several of my own clients doing deliveries. From when I do like Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever, I'll message the client and be like, if you ever want private delivery, especially if it's a business owner, less if it's just a residential person, but if it's like a business owner, I'll message them and be like, if you ever need deliveries, I'm available all day and I'll happily run whatever thing you need to your store or whatever. So I've acquired a few clients that way. And this one client, he's my best one. He gives me jobs all the time. They're all innocent. They're all like, go to his Airbnb, replace a shower head, or like he owns several different businesses, just going and picking up product for that, or like building IKEA furniture, just whatever. And yeah, this one time he's like, oh, do you mind ripping across the border for me? And I didn't think twice because he's so trustworthy, and I've been working with him for over a year now. And yeah, halfway through the job, I was like, what am I doing, Pi? Like, what am I doing, bro? Like, these are sealed bags I don't have a receipt for. Yeah, man.
That's pretty wild. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working on sort of trying to write a book about my TikTok like personalities that I'm meeting, but like integrated also with my real life. And this is definitely part of the story. Like, because I was on live talking about it as I was going through it, and there's such a suspenseful part of it. Sitting in the lineup, looking at the black bags, dealing with the border crossing, and then all through this like sort of existential dissonance of like talking about logic and philosophy as it's all going on. It's just a trip.
Oh, you were actually like holding alive while it was going down.
Yeah, like my idea is to write a book about the personalities I meet, and then have a discography basically of all the lives. So all my lives I record, put it onto YouTube, and then so when you read the book, that'll be more of like a fiction, but it will be referencing the actual lives that are like 6-7 hours long that you could potentially go listen to and discern what who the characters are in real life,
Yeah, but I was asking, like, when you did the border run, did you say you were on a live while that was happening?
The whole time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like I was just doing it because I was like, oh, I'm in the middle of work, like I usually do. Like right now I'm working, and I just throw on the live as I'm working. But it just so happened that this day I was doing that. So like as I'm talking about like pre-sup Precept Mars and Slurms and the humor around that in my background, I'm then switching over into the fiction novel of like me in the lineup with the black bags. It's just a cool story, I think.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the quest of the novel is about like this question of what is logic. Like I'm trying to make it a piece about educating myself on logic, how to use it practically, and so I guess these thought experiments are just that. They're experiments in, talking to these different personalities and like how I apply my own method to get through the conversations. A lot of the conversations are very like heated or controversial or accusatory, so those are good opportunities for me to like try to apply what I've learned.
And I think honestly, like from my like point of view, and I'd be open to criticism of this, but I think applying it is way different than knowing it. I don't think that people that like, I think you could easily be someone that like, I mean, well, we see it all the time. We see people that like know the terms really well, could lay out like syllogisms or whatever, but in an applied sense, like applying like rationality or whatever, like while things are heated, that's a completely different skill set. And I don't think that has anything to do with knowing syllogisms or anything like that. Like, I don't think that means jack shit.
It's fascinating. You are now circling around like literally my main fascination, I'd say. Like why, and you're in it. Like these people who can apply, because like my heroes apply these methods without knowing them.
Yeah.
And that's the true story. That's the true like fascination with. That's why I do get bogged down in maybe some weird objective morality or something like that, because like how could it be the case? How could it be that these heroes that I've witnessed apply the method without being able to articulate it? They don't know anything about syllogistic reasoning, and yet here they are, masters at it.
Yeah.
Absolute masters.
Mm-hmm.
And that is fascinating.
Yeah, I know. And in some cases, because they like there are cases like that I see for sure that when people don't know like the formal chains of reasoning, they might be like more apt to like not know when they're like maybe committing a fallacy or something like that. Like, but their like intuitionist sense of like understanding entailments is still really intact. In a like oddly like clandestine way. Like it's like they've never learned it formally, but they can like kind of understand like through lines in a more like innate way than maybe some other people. That is interesting. Yeah.
Yes, there's also this element of, I do think pain has something to do with it. Suffering and pain. People can endure pain. There's something there that teaches the lesson without having to articulate it. There's something deeper, right, than just like being able to articulate it. It's almost like you've gone through it rather than you've seen it, rather than having to like draw it or something. There's something there with the pain, and then there's also I want to say, this is a hard one to put into words. I do want to say somewhat of like spirituality. That's probably not the right word, but there's something like maybe superstition or just like the benefit of the doubt. There's something there, like a really good read. They have an ability to like give the benefit of the doubt when necessary and then pull the plug when necessary. And that intuition, something about that like intuition that's just like almost painfully obvious. It's like hard to kind of question, and like through experience, it's like hard core experience.
Yeah.
Sage, I am a stoicist. I love stoicism for sure. I think he gets mistaken a lot though, but I do love the Stoics writing. Here's another one, is that when someone's gone through a bunch of pain and then they sound crazy, that makes me almost skeptical of the person who thinks they sound crazy. Now, I'm a academic. I love truth. I don't like I don't like nonsense. But at the same time, I think there's something there. I think to question the validity of someone who's gone through a certain amount of pain, and then be like, oh, they're just crazy, right? In their articulation, it's almost like that's a bigger. Usually, that's a bigger red flag of the listener, in my opinion, than the person who's speaking, even if they sound crazy.
I was I don't know much about went blank there. I don't know much about formal economic models, so I wasn't going to be able to I wasn't going to be able to chime in respect to specific economic models and how they relate to the different political models. But I sort of agreed with you when you were bringing up the fact that valuation is going to occur regardless of incentives,
Yes.
capitalistic oppression or incentives. It's I think things like that, certain systems can exacerbate it for sure, right? They can definitely exacerbate it. They can make it worse. But I don't think that even in the perfect sort of egalitarian economic system that competition would just vanish. I don't think so.
Right. The thought experiment of the sort of utopian. I think you can relate to that square, right? The art square, of course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and how
Yeah,
there's
that's
this
what I was
natural.
thinking of. Yeah.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
just even think even prior to prior to any sort of method of currency, you're still going to have someone that succeeds in resource allocation or something, right?
Yes.
Someone's a better hunter or something
Yes.
prior to any now oppression models, models that lead to oppression. And I think each type of system has their own elements that could possibly lead to it. I'm not an ist. I see it more as you pick from here, pick from there, and you implement what works, rather than thinking that there's some dude with a long beard has written the perfect model in a book. I think that's bullshit. I think it's stupid. But anyway, I think certain aspects can definitely increase the perils of competition, but I don't think that the model alone is what creates it. I think that's not true.
Right.
I
Right.
just because you said there's a whole myriad of things that people are competitive about. They're not merely competitive in respect to wealth. They're competitive.
Yeah, even our valuation is a form of competition. Right, you value etch and sketches way more than I do. Don't give it, never bought an etch and sketch in my life. Don't give two shits. Right.
Yeah.
For you, it's literally your medium at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just see this as imagine regulating for someone like you the prices of etch and sketch toys would be devastating. Devastating. Right? Pai Chi ups the value, yes, through his labor, but also through the product. The product is the etch and sketch. You can't say that it's just the art, right? Pai Chi is you're leveraging this simple product and turning it into something magical, something artistic. And that's the very subjective valuation that if you were to regulate that away, we would have no economics. We'd have no utopian marketplace, this marketplace where all the vendors have their different contributions. Yes, there's cooperation, but there's also competition. And the incentives, this is what people, I see Sage, this is a really good point, the comment, right? The main problem I have with capitalism is that competition can never outperform cooperation. Well, sort of to what Pai Chi said earlier, I think I take from both. I think cooperation and competition work hand in hand. Hand in hand. When I see a soccer game, it's competitive because there's a loser and a winner, and both teams are competing. But the only way they can compete is by conforming to the rules and cooperating. And out emerges the sport of soccer. And so it's this balance of cooperation and competition that allows us to flourish the game of soccer. And pretty much all games are like this, right? This cooperative element is within the rules of the game, so that once the set's established, now we can move on and allow the competition to flourish into all these different categories and products and services, or whatever you want to call them, arts, art forms, etc.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say something, but yeah, I just like it's hard because like I understand like some of the philosophical approaches to these models, but like I don't know a whole lot about I just don't know enough about economics to like really integrate myself in respect to like the economic aspects of it, you know. So
Okay.
it's like still trying
Okay.
to learn.
Your curiosity is the only thing that will limit you in that sense. But the biggest thing that I've learned, first of all, is this: similar to math, we neglect the things that we're not like we don't find interesting. Like a lot of people,
Yeah.
I think, right? Math is a similar one, and I think you're artistic enough to recreate the idea in your mind to make it fascinating and interesting rather than dull and uninteresting. But that's going to rely on you to ask questions about it rather than have someone tell you what it is, you know? You'll
Yeah.
find what you're looking for to that extent. But for me, the only thing that really got me interested in economics was this correlation with math. I saw that, first of all, I have dissonance because I hate math, but I believe in it. So that really bothered me. Like if someone were to ask me when I was young, what's the truest topic that you study in school, I would say math. But then if what's your most loathed topic, I would say math. So I hate the thing that I think is the truest. Then I thought to myself, well, when we're adding and subtracting on accounting sheets, right? Really, all a business is a cash flow model, in and out. How much money are you investing, and how much money did you make? Return on investment. That's the ultimate calculation. Well, it's simple math, right? That's pretty at the baseline. That's pretty simple mathematical arithmetic. That all these other forms of complicated math kind of come from an economic sense, is this basic just balance sheet. And so that made me be able to apply math in a way that was limited and not complicated. Now I'm interested in math because it's like, oh, if it's just basic arithmetic, I can do that. And from that baseline, actually, I learned a lot about calculus and how to apply derivatives and things. But that was later on, just harnessing my interest in basic arithmetic. Oh, I can do basic arithmetic. That's what an accounting sheet is. This relates to economics. And the more I kind of looked into, accounting is not quite as simple as I think. Like, what about accounting for more complicated things like the dollar? How do we account for the value of the dollar? And those kinds of questions led me into a little more complicated math. But nonetheless, I think that the math applied, is actually quite freeing from all the political bullshit, basically. It frees me from having to tie myself down to any political leanings, because thinking economically is really kind of just thinking mathematically, and that allows me to absorb sort of all areas. You're probably more of an economic thinker than you think, right? Because you're an entrepreneurial spirit. You understand, basics of barter and trade on the street, and
Yeah.
risk management. Risk management's a big one too. And so
Yeah.
this actually makes you more of an economic thinker than you really even realize. And it removes you, it's privileged position, because it removes you from the awkwardness of political propaganda. You can just look at the fundamentals. You can just look at the math. And that's like a really fun way of being able to, I think, navigate these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know my vote is really going towards a fiscal policy. When I'm voting, it's a it's not for the virtue signaling. It's not for the morals. Let's be real, right? It's a fiscal policy, and the fiscal policy is what these politicians are competing on. So I can just sort of analyze the economics at a more fundamental level rather than listening to all the facade bullshit and getting caught up in that. It's such a waste of time a lot of the times. Whereas economics, again, applies really practically to my life because I have an accounting sheet of my own money. I have to balance my own budget. And so learning about economics allows me to think about risk management and my own money in a way that is like, again, really freeing. It enables me to make money, etc., rather than tying me down and make me feel like I'm not being heard or my voice doesn't matter, or I have to convince the other side of my position, those kinds of things.
Do you recommend any literature for understanding like basic economic models?
What I would say that the biggest distinction is if you go to school right now and you take an economics course, they're going to teach you fundamentally from a Keynesian perspective. John Maynard Keynes popularized the modern view of economics, and unfortunately, I get a lot of I have a lot of issues with how I have to speak with people who are educated on this topic because they at least don't even know how to represent the opposing viewpoints like Austrian economics. So I would maybe just start with look at the differences between those two, but really it depends on what you are most curious about. Like if like for me, a big one was just looking at, I put money into an investment and then I would look at the price chart, and then I would start asking questions about how to manipulate the price chart, how to draw and plot on the price chart. That interests me more than reading a book on economics. But I got into the reading on economics because of that. But it kind of all depends on what you're most curious about. Like, are you interested in like investing some money and making money? Does that interest you?
Yeah, and in fact, that's going to be the only. I think that's eventually going to be my only saving grace for like long term because of the nature of what I do. I secure enough to live, but because it's so relative to like there's just such an element of luck in what I do for a living that I think investing might long term be the only way to like get any sort of like security. I mean, there's a lot of luck. There's a lot of like, obviously there's a lot of factors. I mean, investing could be very insecure too, but like, you get what I'm saying. Like, what I mean is like,
you're absolutely nailing it on the head.
Like as a freelancer, as a freelancer, everything is like like there's just so many different. There's a lot of different factors than just like going to work and working for someone. Like when you're a freelancer, like there's just like feast or famine is like kind of the name of the game for most people. Even people that are.
You want to know what else?
Yeah.
You want to know what else? This is what excites me the most. Is that when you're humble, it doesn't take much money to excite you. We're so hard on ourselves and we're so skeptical of the financial system that we think 100 grand's out of reach, and most people would have absolutely their lives changed around by 100 grand.
Yeah,
literally, right? And so that's not out of reach. We don't this idea that you have to be all or nothing. You have to get to billionaire status because just upping your life from no money to 100 grand a year isn't good enough is absolutely the thing robbing most people. Right?
Yeah, I've never had a pursuit where like I care about like that kind of money. Like that's just not even remotely anything that ever interested me. Like I'm just not interested in it. And it's not the virtue signal. Like it's just like if someone else is interested in that and they want like they need like a life that like, well, I don't think anybody needs a life of a billionaire, but like even like just like millions to where you can like kind of like just choose your days and do whatever you want and travel at will and things like that. Like I think like that's really cool. And I don't like, I've in different times in my life I've been in situations where I can do a degree of that, but like for the most part, I don't need, like, I've just never chased like obscene wealth. Like, I don't even have it in me. And again, like, that's not a virtue signaling. If someone else wants that, that's like, that's whatever. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
I've
No,
never
but
felt that
it's just
drive. Like,
it's just a testament to how little you really need. It's a testament to
yeah,
investment and how you're not trying to win over the casino and break the house, right? You're literally asking for not that much. You're actually asking for a very reasonable amount. So like wrapping your head around that is part of this like economic approach. It's like you can achieve financially what your aim actually is, but a lot of the times we won't even aim. We won't even like take an aim because we limit ourselves and we think we're not even deserving of the bare minimum of what is actually possible. So okay, so there's this other thing of if you are interested in investing and risk management. So now the question, you're in the wild, wild west, because the question is no one's trustworthy. You're absorbing the capitalist approach now because you're saying everyone's greedy, everyone's out for profit, and I like it. I'm in it. I'm in the wild, wild west. I would be nowhere else, right? So there's this element of sort of embracing the risk, right? I'm not here for security. I'm here to see some volatility, just like the streets, so that when those opportunities present themselves, I can capitalize. Because I don't see the streets merely as just a victim place. I hang out in the streets because I love the streets. I find spots. I'm in the alleys because I like the aesthetic. I like the spots, right? I like the writing on the wall, those kinds of things. So there's an element here of we can seek the abundance by reappropriating where we are looking for scarcity, where we are kind of going to look for these risks. And that's, again, a bit of an artsy thing. If you're going to invest, you now have to ask yourself what interests you. Is it gold? Is it Amazon stocks? Is it building your own business? Is it, right? Is it a real estate investment? Like, what interests you? And that's going to really be the key here. But what interested me in crypto is that I have very little money and the returns on it are, I have basically when I started nothing to lose. So it was more of an educational aspect. Whereas if I'm going to invest in real estate or a business or really anything else, even a car, right? I have to do, the learning curve is so massive that I really don't see myself participating in the market. Crypto's easy. I just get a wallet and download it. The next day I saw a 10% gain and that convinced me, right? Now the next day you see a 7% loss and the next day it goes up and down. But you start seeing this volatility as an opportunity. There's another thing I'm going to say here, which is that do you know what a short is? Do you know what shorting is?
no, I do not.
So this is a really important thing to understand. Every stock, if I buy an Amazon stock, right, I want the price to go up. If I buy one stock, let's say it's worth $50, it goes up by 5%, I make $2.50, something like that. And so tomorrow my stock is worth $52. I just made $2. I put a $50 investment and made $2 because the price went up. Another way to buy a stock is to short the stock, which means I could go to my exchange and rather than buying an Amazon stock, I'm going to buy a short contract, which means I'm going to realize profits only if the price goes down.
Okay, yeah, I did know what that was. I just didn't know it by name. Okay, yeah.
So you're equally exposed to risk down or up, understanding this. Let's say I have $100 and I put $50 into an Amazon stock and then I put $50 into shorting the Amazon stock at the exact same time. I am now risk neutral. The Amazon stock will fluctuate in price, right? But the amount that I'm making will not change other than maybe minimal fees that I'm paying to my exchange. It will not change. I have $50 that's now fluctuating up and down if the price goes down, and I have $50 that's fluctuating up and down if the price goes up. And both are protecting me. I'm literally risk neutral. There's no loss and there's no gain going to happen on this portfolio. And so understanding this gets you kind of into the mindset of like, okay, there's a lot more opportunities in the market than most people are aware of. There's a lot more, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because let's say every day I just manage my portfolio. My portfolio is risk neutral, and every day I just close contracts based on how the price fluctuates. So I'm long on Bitcoin. The price goes up tomorrow. I sell some. The price comes back down. I buy some. Price goes back up. I sell some. And this is all going to be based on my own time preference. I have a time preference of a daily. I want to look at the chart every day. So I'm going to do my executions based on what I see in the chart every day. The only reason I choose Bitcoin is because I'm long on Bitcoin. I think in the long term, it's going to do well. You got to choose something that you think is going to do well and then implement this similar kind of strategy to the amount of risk preference and time management you want, basically. That's my insight for you.
Maybe you should change your name to Gordon Gecko, Sage says.
Yeah. How to get rich quick.
Yeah, you know, I have a tiny bit. I have a tiny bit of Bitcoin, but it's not enough to like really do anything with it. But I have a little bit of it. But
well, the more you capitalize on these short-term fluctuations, the more you're going to increase your gain. When that's what these like farming things do. But you know what the biggest thing here, bro, is your point earlier about people who can apply themselves rationally better than that can do the math or just understand the syllogism. The true lesson is emotional stability. Most people are going to lose in the market, right, because of their emotions. They cannot separate themselves from the losses and gains. They have to neurotically, literally lose. They have no way of protecting themselves from losses because it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy effect. They don't understand how to mitigate their emotions. So when they walk up to the car with the lady leaning on it, they freak the fuck out. They weren't ready for that jolt in the economy. It's the same with you. When you take a loss, are you ready for it or not? Are you planning for that? Or did you just buy an Amazon stock, hope that it's going to go up, saw it go up, got excited, bought another one, then when it went down, you sold it. So all you realized was the losses because you had no strategy for any down. You weren't protecting yourself in any way. Not only that, you didn't even see down as an opportunity because you don't know how to short stock. And, so it's literally just risk management. It's literally the ability to see these as opportunities, losses as opportunities.
Yeah. Not really.
I would also say too that you would have a lot of potential for getting a business loan. I don't know if you ever looked into that, but with your art and everything, you could easily get a bank to support you, I'm sure, or even a private investor to give you, if you wrote out a business plan on particularly what you actually wanted, you could easily get someone to support you and give you, the finances for your next year or two. So if that's the kind of economics that you want to think about too. What's up, Not Real? What up, Kane?
What's up,
today?
Man? Just living the dream. I just saw your background, so I figured I'd hop up. It's intriguing.
Hell yeah! What do you have to say? Yeah, any thoughts are welcome, G.
I literally just hopped on your deal and was just listening for 10 seconds. But what's you tell me what's the thought experiment?
Well, Paichi and I guess I was talking a little bit about the apathy of most people are pretty apathetic about economics. I think they're not really interested in it. And it relates to kind of our disinterested in math. I think I'm a smart person, but I've never really liked math, and I think these things are related. The more I was curious about economics, the more I learned about math, and the more this kind of separated me from political thinking, propagandized thinking, because I was able to weigh and measure different perspectives from an economic lens. So I think economics is really a powerhouse field through which to look through, whether it's your own emotional stability in your life, taking responsibility for your own problems, but also dealing with bigger political and communal issues. there's also another element here that I like to talk about, which is I think that the modern education system probably teaches economics through a Keynesian perspective. John Maynard Keynes I'm not a fan of his ideologies, and usually I think Austrian economics is sort of in the back corners of the library and not something that's popularized. I think that is a political move. So unfortunately, educationally, I think economics is politicized, which is unfortunate.
Mhm.
So yeah, what are your thoughts on all that?
Awesome. What's your take on like a Milton Friedman guy?
I don't have any thoughts on him, honestly. I probably should think about him more. Give me some. Here, let me read something really quick while you talk.
I mean, now you mentioned Keynes. I am an anti, I guess, Keynes thought process from what I understand of it. I'm not super like versed on. Here's the thing, right? Like, and I agree.
I'm reading about his. So he has something about philosophy of stabilization, I guess. I don't know too much about this guy, man.
That's right. Check him out. I think that with what you said, it would be good food for you to chew on. So
yeah, I need to definitely educate myself on Milton Friedman, 100%.
He has more of a libertarian free market understanding of economics. So it's are you guys? I mean, are y'all political? Do you run any political kind of lives or debates on your channel?
Yeah. I debate politics. I mean, I'm in Canada, so I don't debate like the Trump-Harris thing, but I typically just debate free market economics. I'm in Vancouver, Canada, so my takes on things are rare in my around my peer group. But yeah, I tend to be in opposition to like most sort of like communal socialist thinking, regulations, those kinds of.
So you're a free market, small government kind of guy.
Yeah, from my understanding, I have, but again, I sympathize with certain other arguments. But for at least this culture that I'm saturated in, it seems like free market thinking could help for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. That's what's your take on kind of the problems within our banking system in the United States, current economic state, I guess would be a good word.
Like I guess my deep dive into economics is the history of money, thinking about when the gold standard came off the dollar, thinking about what fiat currency and what money really is, treating it more like a adjective than a noun. I think a lot of things have a moneyness quality to them. Money isn't really a thing. It's we can compare different monies, better and worse monies, and so the fiat system I think is coming. Well, it has its place. I'm not going to say it's coming to an end. It has its place, but it's definitely the way that the incentives are going now, I think, leaning towards a more decentralized, consensual system, protocols like in the crypto space.
Yeah. What would you say, in your way of thinking, is the biggest contributor to inflation?
Supply. 100%. I mean, people use the CPI, Consumer Price Index, to try to measure inflation, but ultimately the trading value of the dollar I don't think can really be measured against anything else other than the supply. We can't really basket a bunch of average commodities, right? The volatility in the price of things is irrelevant to the value of the dollar.
Yeah, that's right. So I agree with
But I
that.
think,
What about
this is fascinating to me because I don't think a lot of people say that, right? Like a lot of people just think they can look to the CPI. Oh yeah, 7% inflation, which is crazy to me. These are a lot of people who are educated in the field, which again is concerning.
Well, man, the problem with and this is my opinion, we've put so much like knowledge into the education system, like where it's just like people that know a bunch of things, but like where we've lacked is like the ability to critically think. You know, we can only, like, information's very powerful, but like being able to interpret that information, like rationalize that information and like weigh that information against.
Oh, you're muted, but I love where you're going with that. You're muted though. Oh no. Maybe you got a call or something. That was really going really well. I'm feel free. Anyone wants to talk. Cage, I'd be down to talk to you about whatever you want, bro. It doesn't have to be economics too. No pressure though. Oh, I glitched out. Weird. I've got to come in and out of the app here, so don't mistake my non-presence as not being here. Am I still working? Yeah, I think so. Without some sort of regulation, stifle competition. That could be true. Yeah, that could be true. I just that regulation needs to be consensual. Basically, there needs to be a mechanism for employing consensual regulation. We can allow our regulations to compete as well. It's like the policies themselves are competing with the market. So there's an element of competition even to the regulations, right?
Brother, I think I'm gonna jet and then probably go on a drawing live here.
Hell yeah, Pi. Nice talking to you, man. I know it's kind of down. I'm sort of distracted.
No, it's all good. I realized I needed to focus anyway, so okay. Have a
It
good
was
one.
such a good conversation, man. You're welcome
Yeah, no
back anytime.
problem.
Would love to keep talking to you,
Yeah,
bro.
no problem.
Have a good
Peace.
day. Peace. don't understand in which way economics cannot be a function of politics or governance. Very, very interesting point. Yeah, like I come from the standpoint of removing money from politics, employing the sovereign individual, completely decentralizing power, quote unquote, which is ironically kind of the notion of a liberal minded or progressive. But I don't see how we do that through government or politics. I feel like we do it through money, through fixing our economic systems. It's not a matter of policy, right? It's a matter of structure and accounting. It's a matter of solving a problem, which is the actual math. The math is actually harder to solve than thinking about morality or ethics. It's an accounting problem. Our banking system has accounting issues to the numerical math. Like the numbers themselves are not mathing. So we are having to update our actual system of accounting. Money is backed and regulated by the government. Not all money is. That's not true. Money is just I like to say it's an adjective. It's not as much of a noun, right? It describes things. There's moneyness to most things. There's a quality of moneyness. If the Canadian dollar ceased to exist tomorrow, money would still exist. Fungibility is one quality of moneyness. There's several important properties of moneyness, right, that make a good money. Fungibility is one aspect. Yes. Portability would be another one. Divisibility would be another one. Peace, Sage. Peace, bro.